summer between junior year and then the summer between senior year in college. I had a job where I was a janitor, so I worked from 7 to 3. And then, so this was during the summer, and then I would go to Walmart and push carts, and I'd work from 4 to 11. And so I did that as a 17-year-old, working whatever. How many hours is that? 12 hours a day, or whatever, 14 hours, and both were $5.15 an hour, and that's what I did to pay off my car. So they lent me the money to do that, but it was just innate. It was modeled from them that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And by the way, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be the best cart pusher in the United States of America.
Hey guys, this is Now and welcome to the KodaCast. This is a podcast where we get to document our journey, Kodawari Collective, our passion project. On this podcast, it is my aim to share our story and the stories of people we meet along the way. And in doing so, we hope to take what we learn and apply it to our relentless pursuit of building the ultimate detailing destination in the GTA. Okay. Today's guest is a very special one. We have Matt from Obsessive Garage. Matt started Obsessive Garage YouTube channel in 2014 after being diagnosed with OCD, and setting up the camera and inviting people into this garage changed his life. So the garage is the anchor to his obsession, and the garage is the anchor to how we met and our relationship. So welcome, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. I don't do this as much as I should, and collaborating with other people that are, that have a culture and a following like you guys do. And I admire what you guys are doing so much. It's I think it's what we all aspire to get to, is where you're able to just share your story, and you guys are doing it in a high quality level. I can see it. You guys are using great cameras, and it requires passion in order to do that. So I'm glad to be on here and share some like-minded stories, I'm sure.
Yeah, the fact that I discovered your channel through YouTube, and at that point I was at a pretty, I guess, at a crossroads in my life, and I was like, you know what? I've done well for myself, and I just found myself waking up and just not really giving a shit about what I was doing. Like, I've been able to kind of be successful in my own right, but it just wasn't fulfilling. It didn't get me out of bed to want to chase after something. And just seeing your story of how you transitioned from wealth management into building Obsessive Garage, kind of taking a little bit of what you were struggling with, and used the way you documented it to overcome it and help people and build community was really big, right? But as anyone who's seen our garage and seen our space and how it looks right now, I've always been like, Matt was there from the beginning, and he helped me design it. And designing the garage is one thing, but seeing how you've built your business and how you've chosen to kind of carve out your path and break the rules and evolve what a business can be like, and evolve how people can see the potential of what their life can be like if they choose to kind of just stay authentic and go after things that they really care about, right? So I thought what we could do is quickly jump into the Atlanta garage build. I've been following all the products you've curated. You guys were, I think, just starting out the garage design.
Yeah, you guys are one of the first that I was doing it, and then we started to formalize it with Kyle, who you guys work very closely with.
Yeah.
And it's always been my vision that the whole point of this was to get to the point to where we're able to provide end-to-end solutions, provide the whole picture. And there was a bunch of things you guys had to source because we hadn't gotten there yet. but the goal would be to be able to provide people with a full solution, and that's where audios come in. And I'm sure it's hard for you guys are trying to keep up. It's a lot of it's like, but by the time we got stuff in your garage, it's like, all right, we're on. We got found something better. It's like, where do you end? Where does it stop? And I hope it never ends. But yeah, the garage design is where I think we head toward. Garage design to me is the content hub. I don't want to be in the labor design and install business. I want to be in the content business where designing garages gives me muses to work on. It gives us the things where we can then, like we're starting to work on building our equipment. I want to be shooting on Red, 8K cameras and have a full production team. And just because I like that stuff, and so I think that design, pretty much everything we do is a content source. For the last 4 or 5, 6 years, it's been product source. We've been creating all the individual parts and pieces in order to be able to do garages like yours. That's the ultimate goal. And so when in the beginning it was detailing. Then it was flooring. And then it was cabinets, tools, and now it's tools, and then now it's into audio. And so I'm interested to see the transition. I'm hoping that it becomes more widely followed and more interesting to more people as we start to transition to the end-to-end solution, and showing these transformations of these amazing things that we put together. So that's the goal. But design is super, super interesting to me. We just hired a kid who starts in a couple weeks, who's he just graduated with a mechanical engineering degree with a focus on CAD. So we're going to transition using Revit, and I want to be able to do 3D walkthroughs and stuff like that in people's garages.
I know the flooring and a lot of the tool systems have been still very similar to what we have in our shop, working with Sonic and Swiss Tracks, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I know an area that you're exploring and you've integrated now is audio. So like what are you looking for, and where do you see you taking this audio area?
So it's just another piece, right, to get to the end-to-end solution. So detailing is a big piece. The floor and the cabinets are a big piece. The lights are a big piece. To me, now you guys probably recognize this. We're in a unique situation where it's kind of hard at times. You can't watch TV and listen to movies or listen to music like you normally would because you got the camera on most of the time you're in there. But for most people who are not doing this for a living, my sanctuary is going in the garage. I don't sit in my living room and listen to music. But if I'm tinkering with a new intake or taking my wheels off to coat them and denib the tires, I'd love to have that experience where the bass is hitting me in the chest, and I'm able to listen to different genres of music and just enjoy the experience. Even though the garage is not a particularly good acoustic environment, I like good stuff, and I want good stuff. And just like with pressure washing, just like with lighting, just like with tools, people don't believe it in the beginning because they can't see the vision I have for it. But I envision us providing people with packages. Here's a $400 system. Here's a $800 system. Here's a $25,000 system. And here is how it's sort of set up to be optimized for your experience in the garage, because I think we need some different stuff. Hence, I think studio monitors are great for the garage. These are designed for recording studios. There's certain stuff that works better in the garage than what you would work in your home theater or in your family room or living room. And so, to me, this is what's happened as people have followed along is. Like with Milwaukee, I was everything Milwaukee, just chasing all the Milwaukee packages, trying to figure out how to put that together, and so this pursuit of creating the end-to-end solution requires obsessive periods on certain sets or certain portions of the garage. And then by the end of this, we'll have a full, high-end solution. And guess what I'll do? I'll go start at the beginning and work my way back through it again to improve. And I think ultimately we end up making a lot of our own stuff, because right now I'm just, it's sort of a homologation of all the great stuff that I can find that are usually underserved. I don't want what everybody else wants. I want what's great, and usually the great stuff is really obscure. And I can't. It makes me lose sleep at night knowing that I'm missing out. Like there's so many things that I don't know about even in all the categories of stuff I'm selling that's out there that makes me wake up every day excited to go find the next thing. In fact, it's a source of frustration and source of angst that I can't do everything all at once.
Yeah, because as you're looking for these companies and the people behind these companies that are producing just really high quality pieces of equipment or whatever, right? They don't always have the capacity to market themselves well.
Hmm.
And with how things are transitioning in our world where the internet's there for you to market and build that, making that evolving as a company that has that capability is it's just hard for a lot of businesses.
It's almost directly correlated to the quality of the product. It's directly correlated to the arrogance around everybody should know this and everybody should want this and I don't have to tell anybody about it, which we all know is not true. And so luckily there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
And luckily it's been really, really hard for me to break into pretty much every one of these categories, because if it wasn't hard, then it would have already been done. And what am I going to do? So like right now, the lighting industry is so antiquated. I mean, they are literally selling door to door, and they don't even have pricing guides, like let alone an internet presence. And so if you want high end lights, you've got to stumble upon a contractor that knows a light design firm that then has a relationship with an electrical supply house that then quotes each job individually one at a time. And so they get like unique pricing every time they quote a job. And so what I'm saying is, why don't you just let me teach people how to buy this? And they don't think that we want it. They think that we consumers are stupid or something, or I think it's largely they just don't know how to crack into that, and so they stay with the bread and butter, which is this BMW dealerships and Uline factories and these big commercial facilities, and then there's a few really wealthy people who stumble upon a builder, who stumbles upon a designer, who stumbles upon an electrical supply house. And so I'm their answer to what they're looking for, but they can't see it. And so I've been really struggling to try to figure out what to say, because they're so concerned with getting a call from the designer or from the contractor, from the designer, and from the electrical supply house saying, why are you allowing this person to steal our business? When all of the data, all of the things I've experienced is there's no theft at all. In fact, if anybody's getting stolen from, it's me, because the electrical supply house sells more because people start requesting it. The designer would start to sell more because people are requesting it. It's just like in detailing, which we all understand a little more, that if in the beginning, detailing was kind of all that all knowledge was hoarded and no one was really talking about it. There was the junk man, and then Ammo NYC was producing, Larry Casillo was producing better produced videos, but the junk man was like just kind of talking microfiber towels and talking budget ways to do it. But before I started making videos, there really chemical guys was trying to sell their stuff, but there really wasn't an online presence in detailing. And now we've seen that the rising tide, having more personalities, having more information, hasn't hurt professional detailers at all. It's helped them immensely in creating public awareness that now there's this professional grade way to do things, and the vast majority of the customers that you want, they aren't going to do it themselves. So it's a win for everybody. It's a win for the retailers, it's a win for the wholesalers, it's a win for the manufacturers, it's a win for the professional. And so in these other areas of professional grade stuff, they're still stuck where detailing was 10 years ago, where everybody tries to hold on to what they got because they don't want to lose. And by doing that, they're doing the opposite of what they think. They're losing. And so I'm attempting to apply this. It was the same thing in pressure washing. It was the same thing in Sonic wouldn't let me sell their stuff. I had to meet with them 3 years in a row and beg them at lunch, at SEMA, please Just let me do this. Let me be a dealer. You don't have to pay me anything. You don't have to give me anything. Just let me be a dealer. Let me make a margin on the product. And we've seen what happened there. If they had more supply, it would be international. Where they would be like an industry standard. And so that breeds another layer of challenges. But I think that that's where the thing I'm trying to figure out in the future. We can kind of get into this, but so I feel like I'm like chopping down thick brush in the Amazon with a pocket knife, and I'm chopping it down and paving a road behind me, and then everybody else just gets the frickin' super highway right through it. So what I'm trying to do now in the future is put a frickin' toll booth on the front of it, so that I can get paid for me chopping the trees down, chopping down redwoods with a butter knife,
Yeah.
and so I'd like to be able to figure out how to be have an equal exchange in value and what hopefully I'm providing. So I guarantee it's going to happen in lighting. Then they're going to use this story of me chopping the trees down with a butter knife for them to go out and start marketing to other people, and they'll start to open up the floodgates because all the tides will rise. All the designers, all the laborers, all the supply houses, all the manufacturers, everybody wins when we don't assume the consumer is stupid and we teach them how to use our product.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
I think there's a lot of upcoming technology that might be able to help you with that, man. Like I don't really know much about NFTs and smart contracts and this kind of stuff, but Gary Vee is someone that you've been around, and I know you
Yeah.
went on to like a business. Um,
Yeah, Gary Vee was really. I went to the 4Ds.
yeah,
Gary Vee was important in my life in that transition from wealth management, from a pseudo job. It was a job that I thought I was a business owner in, and when it recognized that I wasn't a business owner, that I was an employee, and making that transition to the reality that Obsessed Garage really is what I'm destined to do, and I really am an entrepreneur. I didn't know it, for 40 years or 38 years of my life. I just thought I was a really good employee under the, and I was doing it under the guise that I was a business owner, financial advisor. And so it was a hybrid because we didn't get paid a salary. But that transition from I was working within a platform, which Merrill Lynch and Raymond James had created for me, to now I've got to create the platform from a vacuum, from scratch. Where Merrill Lynch, I was selling stuff that they had already created. Now I'm creating the thing that I'm selling. And so that transition was pretty significant. And Gary Vee was a sort of important thing for me to follow. And then I paid the 10 grand or 15 grand and went to the 4Ds, and so we got to sit with Gary for an hour and a half or something like that, and sit with some of his talent, and sit with other business owners. And it was an interesting session because most of the people there were like fanboys of Gary, and they were there to kind of tell their story of what they've done, and I felt like I was there to learn something.
was there a takeaway that you can?
Yeah, for me it was inorganics. So I had all the organic stuff nailed, meaning I was being authentic. I was making YouTube videos with no agenda. I wasn't doing I wasn't getting paid from sponsors. And it's not wrong to get paid by sponsors, but in my chosen path, it really doesn't fit. So I was taking the non-traditional influencer path, where I was doing it the way that's fit me, so it will never become a job. We were talking about this before we started recording, and the takeaway for me at the end. So he has you kind of tell a little bit, give you 5 minutes of what you've been doing and what your story is, and the takeaway at the end was, now it's time to pay. It's time to do inorganic marketing. So it's time to start doing ads. And so I've actually hired somebody. It was Brad, who was consulting with me. I've hired and made the huge investment to bring him here from Denver, and he's here full time, and we're working through a bunch of projects to get to the point to where we're doing more like we do like Google Shopping ads. I would like to then start to transition into brand advertisement rather than product advertisement. Start to push the brand, like this garage in Atlanta. I don't know how we got sidetracked from that. That was the original question. But this garage in Atlanta should be, I mean, it's the coolest thing, I think, excuse the arrogance here, but it's one of the coolest things I think has ever been done. And there are plenty of wealthy people that have done really cool stuff, but there is no one in the world that's brought all these great products together. Usually garage, you've seen it, they end up with a lot of hokiness, with a lot of cheap stuff that's that's consumer grade. We're doing a truly professional grade garage. Now, John's not going to use 90% of that stuff, but who freaking cares? That's what it's about. That's what life's about. He's going to hire somebody to come in and detail with all the detailing equipment. But it'd be a lot easier to hire someone if you've got that set up. Somebody's going to want to come work there for free almost.
Yeah.
But I think that the inorganic side of making Obsessed Garage a household name, requires us to start, spending some money on advertising, which I didn't spend a red cent for 7 years. And we're just now starting to get into that. So the Gary Vee discussion was, the next step would be to add rocket fuel to the already, moving, jet.
Yeah.
And so that was the big takeaway for me. And so I don't think I've watched a single Gary. It was weird. It's like I was all in. I'd read jab, 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 right hook. He's just authentic, right? You can tell there's authenticity there. He's a sort of a savant when it comes to. He's a 45-year-old man that knows a lot about where the market, he knows where to skate to, where the puck is headed, and that's very evident to me. And so I was there to get what I got out of it. And then there was just, again, using that word organic transition to, I don't think I've watched a single thing he's done since. I just hadn't needed it. So it was important for me at that time in my life, and hasn't been now in today, in the present.
And just that one simple takeaway is worth the price of admission, right? Because
10 times, 10, 20x, and I assumed that would happen. I would get one thing or two things.
Yeah. As we talk about Gary, a big thing that he's known for is perspective, and how I'm trying to tie this back to how difficult it's been to get these brands and these businesses to understand where you're going, right? It's because their mindset around abundance, around losing business, around it's kind of based a little bit on fear, and
success. I mean, they've been successful, right?
Yeah.
And so why would you mess that up? And of course, everybody wants to have growth and have more, and that's been the big shift for me. Is I just couldn't. I don't understand this. Like, here's the thing. It's all laid out. And I just didn't understand their perspective. So I've been putting myself in their shoes. And so, one of the discussions I had with DMF Lighting was, I understand. I get it. I know, and I had them sort of say, what are some of your apprehensions? And I was able to sort of quell that concern. One of the concerns was, you're going to be coming in and stealing, business from someone who's spent a lot of time, putting together a lighting design. And I said, look, if that happens, I will relent. But I would say it hasn't happened yet in any other product. And so I don't think you need to be concerned with that, because, first of all, we're bringing in a whole new audience. Secondly, that light design or that light engineer or whatever is going to get more business from it, because more people are going to know to ask for it.
So they're saying that you're taking from the person who's like, his job is to kind of design the lighting inside of a house and inside certain projects.
That's the concern for pretty much every distribution model, is that when you do e-commerce, we're put into the e-commerce category. So when you're doing e-commerce, that you're generally you're discounting, which of course that's not my game. Generally you're discounting, and then you're just giving a better price, and then snaking deals from companies that put in the work. So in other words, your customer comes and takes all the advice from the light designer, and then they just go buy it online. But that, in this world of high end, complicated stuff, that doesn't happen. But they don't know that.
Yeah.
That's what they assume, because that's what has happened. Is that some Joe Blow has some fly by night online e-commerce site. They convince the vendor, and pretty much every vendor's done this. One or manufacturer's done this with one or two companies. They've gotten duped. And this is going to be our path to get online. And next thing you know, that stuff is on like Office Depot's discount platform and Walmart's discount platform and Amazon, and they all drive the price of the product down, and then the designer and the people that have been their bread and butter for the last 50 or 60 or 80 years is now getting screwed. And so I'm lumped into that category, and so I'm very aware of that now, and so I generally lead with that, and it's gotten me at least in the door. So like Lutron, Lutron makes light switches and all that. Lutron is I'm exactly who they're looking for, and yet they keep telling me no because of this fear that, well, you're going to mess with the electrical supply houses, you're going to mess with the lighting designers, you're going to mess with our bread and butter. And what I don't give a crap about what they're doing. It's a totally different customer. And so in the beginning, I was like, no, totally different customer. So now I've been taking the tact. I understand. How about this? How about I agree to back away if that ever happens? How about I'll support them? And you can put this in writing if you want, because it's not going to happen. It doesn't happen. These people they're not doing any marketing. They're not doing any work. They're taking the customers they already have. Yeah. So there's no overlap because their customers are already their customers. They're not watching my stuff. They don't need me.
Yeah.
They already have somebody. So there's not a lot of overlap there. What they will get is then more customers, because then customers know, well, shoot, there's a whole world. There's just like detailing. There's a whole other subculture, there's a whole world out there in each one of these categories: tools, lights, flooring, all this stuff. There's an insane amount of air compressors. There's a whole industry around just air compressors, and so there's plenty of room. And then they bringing it into the forefront, bringing it into online to teach people about it, makes it just better for everybody.
Yeah, because that's what the internet has done, is it's given people access to information. And what it's done for companies is like it's given you an opportunity to connect to people, not just in your city, not just in your country, but all over the friggin' world.
But it's hard. It's that they've done it the traditional, the inorganic way. What Kodawari's doing, what Obsessive Garage is doing, is an evolved form. It's an organic way. It's a natural way. It's an agendaless way, and it takes part of my all of everybody's life experience is what makes them who they are. And so my life experiences and my my shortcomings as well as my strengths have created this primordial soup of someone who's suited to do this particular task. And now my role in the world is to go and pitch it and to teach the companies how to allow me to use my gift set to make a contribution to the world instead of making it such a detriment. And me just sitting in a theater peeing into mason jars, as a crazy person. So that's been the life's mission, and it's frustrating at times, but then it's so rewarding. Like when I finally convinced Milwaukee to let me sell their stuff, it's like so rewarding. And then you saw that smile on my face when I had $85,000 worth of every tool they make, like in the background, just stacked to the ceiling. And it's just having so much fun just opening the boxes. And then it's even more fun to me when people say, you have no business doing that, carpenters and plumbers, like real men. Yeah. And here I am, this frickin' poser, just happy as can be on opening something and saying, I don't like this. Let me get rid of this.
Yeah.
And that to me was worth the 2 or 3 years of me begging to let me, or when my sonic array first showed up, and after they'd let me become a dealer, and I can just picture, the videos that I'm going to make and how I'm going to be able to provide people a resource for this stuff. It's just super rewarding.
Yeah, and it's just circling back to staying true to yourself. If you actually care about these things enough, regardless of what purpose you're using it for, you're gonna grind it out for 3.5 years to try and get these contracts and trying to getting this distribution rights, right? So that's only gonna help you if you're actually chasing after what you want, and not picking up things or adding stuff to your store that you think people would want. But it's just like, you know what, this is what I want. Even if it seems like overkill, this is what I'm gonna just chase, and that's really
Yeah,
cool.
if I want it, then there's a very high probability that others will too. And the beauty of the internet and social platforms is that I can find those very few other people that are also interested in the same thing. And now because I've gathered a lot of those people and there's some attention on it, it's like rocket fuel. So I can buy 85,000 worth of Milwaukee tools, where I may have gotten to where I've gotten to with the understanding of Milwaukee tools, but it would have taken me years. So instead, the rocket fuel is that I can do it in months. Now the struggle has been I'm ready to go, but each product we create takes 14 man hours on average to build. And so I just dump 50 Milwaukee tools on the team, and then I want to create like 9 or 10 different packages, and then all the labor and all the work while trying to make a video every day on YouTube. And so it's been a learning curve in mobilizing humans to get them to not drive them off the bridge, not drive them off the deep end by working them too hard. And so there's been this give and take that I've had to learn how to manage to then bring that product to the world. So I've got 300K of Milwaukee tools sitting on the shelf over there. We haven't completed the project yet, even though I'm on to 3 things. I'm on to lights, and I'm already into audio, and so it's been that learning curve of trying to figure out how to stay like on track without killing everybody along the way. So
I I think we should, like, we're kind of talking a lot about like what's going on right now. I want to rewind it a little bit and kind of
okay,
just go back to kind of like your story from the beginning. I want people to get insight as to, you see Matt as he is right now, enjoying all these things. There's been a process. You've gone through different chapters in your life to kind of acquire skills and figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And everyone's always, with social media, everyone's like, you can just see people's highlight reel, right? You can see where they're at right now. But when you actually understand where they came from, how their parents had an influence on them, how their schooling or their different careers has led them up to where they are right now, right? Let's start with where it all started with you. You grew up in Pennsylvania.
hmm
You mentioned that you grew up in a trailer park with your parents, and what was that uh, childhood like for you?
So I was born in 1980, and so I'm a 80s 90s kid, and so I feel like there's 2 chapters in my childhood. One was the trailer park, and then one was my like teenage years when we moved away and moved to a traditional house. But I grew up just north of Pittsburgh in southern Butler County, and so I'm a natural Steelers, Penguins, Pirates fan. The NFL football has been something I've kept up with much more than hockey or baseball. But I'm a have a I got rid of the Pittsburgh accent, but I feel like Pittsburgh, people from Pittsburgh have a certain just like people from other regions of the area have a certain mentality, and my parents had that like extreme blue collar, like extreme work ethic mentality, and my mom suffers from obsessive compulsive disorder, much like I do, maybe in a little bit different manifestation, but she's a neat, clean freak, and like crushingly my parents were young, so they were 18, 19 years old, and they didn't go to college, and just kind of barely skated through high school, and so my mom cleaned houses, so she was a housekeeper, and my dad was a printing press operator. So they made business cards and letterhead and stuff like that. And so, my dad started out as just the, low man, and kind of worked his way up and became sort of management at some point. But, my parents, like, it's really interesting. I didn't cut grass like their grass. I didn't clean a dish. Like, I never did dishes. I didn't have chores. I didn't have to clean my room because it was already clean. I didn't have those kind of things. But yet they modeled it. And so it's interesting. Both me and my sister are very particular, very clean, very neat. And I don't know when that transition happened. Probably college for me. Like, I had never done laundry before. I had to have the girls in the dorm show me how to do my laundry because my mom had taken the socks off my feet when I walked in the front door and had them clean before I got to my upstairs. And so there was an efficiency. There was a modeling of obsession, of work ethic, of just a passion around taking care of what you have. And so it was my parents were poor. We were below middle class when I was young. But it wasn't, we worked for like certain things. So I always had something I was pursuing. In my early years, it was Jordans. Jordan 1, Jordan 2, Jordan 3. I mean, it was that pursuit. So I would work all summer, even when I was, 7 or 8 years old, doing odd jobs for the families that my mom worked for. So we would go with her. So anytime we were off school, by the way, we had perfect attendance. There was no, you just fake it. It's funny today, like they kids stay at home, but like there was, perfect attendance at all times. I think in elementary school, I think I missed 2 days. One when I broke my ankle, and maybe one other time. And so there was and the reason was she had to go to work. And so if we ever stayed home, we were going with her to work. And so I worked for those families. So I got to see what it was like to be either an entrepreneur or a doctor. She worked for a doctor. She worked for an entrepreneur family who owned a fish. They owned like a fish retailer. And so we got to see that she worked for a family that owned a party store. So there were 3 main families that she had worked for my entire childhood up till I was about 13. And so I would do odd jobs for them. And so just seeing that model, but there's a certain humbleness that comes from you're there helping clean somebody else's mess. We're like the lowest men on the totem pole, but I never had that feeling, never had that sense of inferiority. I also never had the sense of I need to beat these people. I need to be that way. It's just was like a culturing, if you will. Like I feel like it created a cultured experience, and I think doing that and seeing these other families like opened it up to like I never really thought about like if I would have gotten into Harvard, like I would have just figured out how to pay for it. I got into Villanova, which is 3 or 4 steps down from that, but I like college was just something I was going to do. Being an engineer was natural, what I should do, where I should go. It'd be the hardest choice. And so when we, the second chapter, my dad got a job, and so an upgrade to be like a plant manager in a different town in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. And so when we moved there, that was a pretty rough transition because I'm a English Irish kid, and so I didn't hit puberty until I was like 17 and 3/4, and so I moved to an all Italian town. Those kids are fully grown at 11, and so when I moved, I played all sports. I played football, baseball, basketball, soccer, and then I couldn't make a team because I'm this tiny, tiny little kid. I was always one of the biggest kids, and then all of a sudden, when I'm 12, 13, everybody else is growing, and I'm this tiny little kid, and I think that shaped my a lot of fears and things like that when we moved and just kind of get pushed around and picked on, and so I think most kids have had that experience of sort of the bullying aspect of life that sort of shapes who you are. It also shapes that like you never become a bully if you've ever been bullied. So when I did get big and strong and all of that, like I didn't have that chip. I just knew that wasn't something I wanted to do. And so that transition 7th to 8th grade was really awkward. And so I discovered skateboarding. And so that was my life. I lived that lifestyle. So this is early '90s, beginning of new school skateboarding. It was that transition from old school, like the Tony Hawk big skateboard with a with the big plastic, rails on it, to like the smaller new school board. And so I spent my entire waking life pursuing skateboarding with a extreme fear of getting hurt. And so I was terrible. I had some skills, but not balls. And so I wouldn't go bombing down. Like, I had friends who were not very good, but they would just go for it.
Yeah.
And so skateboarding, was the next sort of chapter in shaping my life. And all the while, like, I always had the best skateboard. I'd always, when I was little, I'd always had the best Matchbox cars. Or I had, He-Man or Star Wars action figures that were meticulous and dialed in. And so even though I was never, my parents were never wealthy, we were, erring on the side of the poor side. My mom was always cleaning houses. So that socioeconomic status, if we were going to pursue something, I would always want something great. I would want something nice. I would forego some interim junk step to get the good RC car, and I would be like you're probably too young for this, but Sears, we had the Sears catalog where you go to the back, and that's where all the toys and chemistry sets and stuff like that. And I would always I'd always be interested in specifications, and I'd always be looking at the tools and all that, even as a kid. And just fascinated by complete sets, baseball cards and basketball cards, fascinated by complete sets of things. And so I went to, when I graduated high school, I got into Villanova, and I went there. I was either going to go to Pitt or Villanova as an engineering student, but I didn't know how to study. My parents didn't model that. So they modeled work ethic, they modeled cleanliness, they modeled taking care of your stuff, but they didn't know how to do calculus. They didn't know how to do, they didn't know how to help me with my AP biology work. So I just didn't do it. Any of it. None of it. Zero. Gosh, I wish I could go back. It would have been so easy. I mean, I would just go to class, and I'd kind of pay attention. And I'd be drawing, stereo systems and modeling out like what stereo system I was going to do or what car I was going to get in the future, while half paying attention to what the teacher was saying. And I just show up and take the test. And in high school, I get a 95, or a 92 when I should have gotten 100. And so that's what got me into Villanova, was because I took AP calculus and biology, and I didn't take the AP tests. I didn't want to be bothered with that. But I took the AP class just because that was the hardest path. So that's probably what got me into Villanova. And then when I went to Villanova, it was too hard to not study, but I still didn't do it. I didn't study. So I was just in a therapy session here recently, and what I recognized is that the difference between, when I melted down in 2014 and then, is that I didn't live in the future when I was younger. I lived in the present, and the present was, I want to play volleyball. I eventually got the job selling home theater stuff, and I want to go to school. But I'm just going to focus on what I like doing most, and I certainly don't like studying. And so there are many instances where I'd be I would go to volleyball practice and just be totally sold out for that, and then I would rush over to Bryn Mawr Stereo and sell a bunch of stereo stuff, make a bunch of money. And I'd come back at like 10 o'clock. All the engineering students have been in the lab studying since like 3 p.m. I was at practice at 3 p.m. And then I would come back with a king-size bag of, of barbecue chips with my book or my backpack. I would sit down in the lab. They'd be looking at me just disgusted with this rebelliousness. They've been studying all day, all night, and they're going to study all night. I'd finish my bag of chips. I say, I don't feel like doing this. I just get up and leave. And so that you can see that in in the videos that I make today, and that I'm just going to do a march to the beat of my own drum, and I did that without without any agenda. I didn't care what they thought. I wasn't like prideful that I could do that. It's just that I just wasn't interested in it. And then I'd show up and I'd get a 52 on the test, and the curve would bring me up to a 74. And that's how I got through Villanova. I got an engineering degree with a C average, with what I like to think, this is the narcissist in me, with that I'm a A student, that ended up with a C average just because I was focused on whatever I was present in, whatever was interesting to me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was at Villanova, I was selling, high-end home theater. I've told this story many times, but I got a job selling high-end car stereo and then transitioned to home theater. So I was making like 70 grand when at Villanova, working part-time. And so all my buddies were going to work for Lockheed or Unisys or some engineering firm when they graduated. And they'd been taking the traditional path, doing internships, and then the internships would lead to another internship, and building their resume so that way they could have their resume done, so that way they could go get at the time, a $42,000 a year high-paying job. I'm making 70, playing with what I love in Mitsubishi Diamond rear projection TVs and Klipsch surround sound systems and learning about XLR cables versus RCA and auditioning speakers and learning how to tune them and set them up in a room so I could get the best imaging. And that's what I did. And if I did more of that, I'd make more money. And there was no cap. And so when I graduated, I wanted to pack my crap and move to San Diego. That's what I wanted to do. But it was a little too much to pack my stuff and move to San Diego, and so Orlando was my second choice. And so when I graduated, I called the company down here that was a subsidiary of the company I was working for at Tweeter. It was called Sound Advice, and I said, "Hey, I'm the number one salesman in my store and in number 3 in the area. I've only been working part time. I'd like to come down there and be a home theater salesman." And so I moved down here and partnered with some crazy guy who had an established customer base, and so I was making made like $100,000 selling stuff that I loved. And that was a seminal moment in my life. About a year and a half after being there, I was accused of stealing, and that's a whole long story. But it was some deal with I did a car stereo when I was up in Philadelphia, and the car stereo came back. And there was some I guess the installers used some extra cables or something laying around. So they took inventory of the car, and it was one of my friends. And I had a standing order with my friends that they would pay 20% above cost. It was a friends and family discount. So come to me and buy whatever you want, and you get 20 up. I didn't want to discount things because it would cut my commission, but these are my friends. And he was a loose friend. And so when they started asking about where'd you get this stuff, he said, I don't know. Maybe Matt just gave it to me. And so there was this. Then that manager was calling my manager and saying that I'd stole all these cables, which was freaking nonsense. And I was stuttering because I've sold millions of dollars of stuff, and I just didn't remember exactly, And as I'm trying to jog my memory, they're trying to catch me in a lie. And so they sent me home, and it was we're either going to fire you and arrest you, or we're going to let it slide. Go home, and we'll decide. And so that was broken, right? So that broke that career path for me. What I should have done is I should have went and started my own home theater business, and I probably would have sold that for $200 million by the time I was 40. But I didn't. I used that as fuel to figure out what I'm going to do next. And so luck would have it, again, being present when I was younger, I wasn't thinking so much about the future. I was just taking passion and driving my energy toward it. When that passion died, a guy walked in my store from Merrill Lynch and sort of headhunted me. It took me a year and a half to get the job. My hairline used to be straight, and I looked like I was 12 when I was my early 20s. And he convinced me to interview. So I did 13 interviews with Merrill Lynch over the course of a year and a half. So I stuck it out there. So when I was late 24, I accepted the job. Started when I was 25 at Merrill Lynch. And so I left the happy to chase the money.
So I want to talk about when you were in Villanova and everyone around you was studying stuff like this. Where did that? You weren't influenced by that in any way, and where do you think that mindset came from? Is that something that your parents instilled in you, or?
No, part of it came from not knowing how. The main part of it came from I just wasn't interested in that. I knew I needed the degree, but I also knew I was sitting in class. I'm like, this doesn't apply to anything. Now, I'm a huge advocate of go to college. That experience was the greatest 4 years of my life. It was
what about
just incredible.
Was really stuck out?
Freedom, freedom, the dining hall. I learned to work out then. I wasn't so fat. I was jacked. Like if the 20-year-old version saw me, I'll tell you the story of how this happened. Prozac happened to me is how I ended up not an athlete anymore. But it was the cultural experience of just going out on my own, learning to do laundry. Because again, my mom did everything for me. And except I worked like a crazy person. So she did everything for me at home, and I had jobs where I'd work like an insane person just to get money to chase the next cool thing.
Did they force you to get those jobs, or was that
Oh
something
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
But
what they
I
instilled in
chose
you.
them.
Yeah.
I chose them. But like when I wanted a car, like I'm gonna pay for it. And so I worked my junior year, the summer between summer between junior year and then the summer between senior year in college. I had a job where I was a janitor, so I worked from 7 to 3. And then, so this was during the summer, and then I would go to Walmart and push carts, and I'd work from 4 to 11. And so I did that as a 17-year-old, working whatever. How many hours is that? 12 hours a day, or whatever, 14 hours, and both were $5.15 an hour, and that's what I did to pay off my car. So they lent me the money to do that, but it was just innate. It was modeled from them that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And by the way, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be the best cart pusher in the United States of America. Right. And so I would try to work on efficiencies and chase and try to run. And there was a special needs guy who was in his 40s who pushed carts before I came in, and so he was only able to manage a certain amount of carts. So every time I came in, it was like a bomb went off in this Walmart parking lot, and so I would use that as a challenge and I really appreciated him not working too hard, because then I got to see if I could catch up. And every day I would try to fight to see, can I get it caught up in a minute before my best time. And then the kid that would work with me would show up like 50% of the time. We'd always have the turnover. A cart pusher's like the menial job. So here I am, guaranteed the smartest person there. Excuse the arrogance, but there was no question I was the most intelligent human in the entire organization at that Walmart in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. And yet I'm the lowest paid guy doing the most menial job, and I'm going to frickin' do it great. Like the dumb football players were the cashiers, and they were just just goofballs. The whole thing is a bunch of goofballs.
But a lot of people in your position would easily be like, let their ego get in the way. It was like, you know what? If I'm the smartest person here, why should I even care? Like if the person before me is struggling to, he leaves me with a mess after a shift. Like so many
Well, that's what the
people,
other kids would
yeah.
do. The other kids would just quit. They just wouldn't show up, or they'd come and see it was a mess. For whatever reason, this is probably from my mom or from my dad. Like I just accepted. Like I can remember I never had a thought of this guy sucks. I hate. He's messing up my life. I saw it as an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to. It was weird though, because I didn't see that. Like I never went and requested, hey, let me be a cashier. Why am I not a cashier? I just accepted the position. And this is the position that I have, and this is what I'm going to do. And that was the only job I ever quit. I walked out. The reason I quit is because I got in trouble for taking too many carts at once. It was a safety issue. And so the lady came out, and I just handed her my stuff, and I said, I'm done. This was like 3 days before I was going to college, and she was actually coming out to ask me if I would come back and give me a raise, but also reprimand me for taking too many carts. You're only allowed to take 14 at a time, and I was taking like 70. We had a tow hook, like what you would use to tow. We didn't have one of those fancy machines they have now. We had like a car tow hook, and you'd put the two tow hooks together, like a yellow, nylon, with the two hooks on the end of it. You hook it on, and you'd pull, and you'd steer the front of the cart. And we'd line them up, laterally or horizontally, and then you'd take them down and it was a slight downgrade, so I could get, once I got like 70 or 80 carts moving, Even though 70, 80 carts would like take out a car if like, you hit them head on, and you just start running and hope that no one got in the way, and then you go and push them where the cart people, the greeter would have the stuff. But I looked at that, it was like, this was my job, this is where I'm at, I'm not going to be here forever. But I never like complained,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
And that was probably from my mom.
Yeah.
She never complained about having to work hard, ever.
And you see what's I love hearing these stories is because it shows you the importance of the mindset, because you spoke earlier about, like, your mom was, you're cleaning for someone, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, right? You could
Hmm.
choose to see it that way. You could choose and be like, man, look at my life, I'm cleaning for people. Or you can take pride in what you do and be like, you know what, I'm going to clean, and I'm going to take pride that this bed, this room, this house, whatever I'm doing it the best that I can, and I'm looking at tomorrow as an opportunity to improve my craft, improve this skill of mine, and take pride in that, right? Because I think so many people are just like looking at these jobs, things you do, the mundane things you do every single day, and it's just like, why should I care about this? But it's how you approach these small things and how you approach the results, it bleeds into everything else, right? And you mentioned that you never had a chip on your shoulder. You never thought that, you know, it- that you wanted to beat these people, right? Because your mom, she role modeled that, right? She cleaned at her job, she did it very well, and then when she came home, it wasn't like she turned off that that part of her life. She continued to take pride in how she kept the house clean and took after care
Oh
of the
yeah.
stuff. And it was just a lifestyle. It wasn't just a job. It was a lifestyle, and she took pride in it. And I think that,
Well, I think a lot of it is out of passion. She had a
yeah,
passion for keeping things clean. That passion with a side of crushing, disorder. And so there's a yin and yang to it, to like obsessive compulsiveness. There's a real beautiful byproduct of it. People say I hate, it drives me crazy when they say I'm so OCD. OCD doesn't mean organized, it means obsessed. It means passionate. It means you can't function well without that chase or that thought. And the negative byproduct is the chemical imbalance that comes from it, that that like crushing fear, and that need. And some people have ritualistic OCD where they have to lock the door 57 times, that kind of stuff. But that's where it comes from. And I think I think a lot of the chemical imbalance, or the where it comes, is hereditary. And so it's partially psychological modeling, as well as just just your physical, your biological makeup. But yeah, that modeling of the real interesting thing. So when it's like a therapy session for me here. The That rebelliousness, that my parents didn't have the rebellious side that I have. Maybe they did when they were younger, that I don't know about, but they accepted a lot more than I did. Like, I was at Walmart, I would have worked my way up the ladder, but I never accepted that. It was never like, this is what I'm going to do. I would never fall into things where they would, my mom cleaned houses for decades, and she could have built a cleaning business, and had an empire. She runs, you should see her, and she runs this whole facility. And so there was an acceptance that I resented, I think. And like, let me just accept my, it was never a plight, but let me just accept my status, accept my position, and this is what this is what we're going to do, and we're just going to do it the best we can, and just do it forever. And so there's a deep down entrepreneur inside of me that did not accept that. That was that showing up at at the study session and saying, I'm just not going to do this. This is ridiculous. This makes no sense. This is not fun. Why would I do this? I don't care how much money I'm paying. I'll figure out a way to pay that later. All I need is the paper. I need the piece of paper. Your piece of paper is going to be the same piece of paper that I have. And so I'm just going to accept that, because I need to focus my energy here and there.
yeah. So you went from working in audio and something that you were were really enjoying and passionate about. And because of just what transpired, it directed you into the next chapter of your life where,
Quote, quote, get a real job is what
yeah,
I envisioned it.
and it was something that you didn't care about. So,
I forced myself. It was something that I was interested in, mainly interested in what that, how to really leverage and understand money, and finance. It was interesting to me, but it certainly wasn't a passion. Not at all. Not even in the slightest bit. And I didn't. It's funny because I didn't recognize that at the time. It's like I thought I could just be passionate about anything. I'll just turn it on and off. I wasn't as introspective as I've had to become to stay sane as I've gotten older. But when I was younger, I didn't think about any of this stuff. It was like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to become obsessed with this because I can and I should. And it's the right thing to do. And it's time to get a real job.
and you became successful in that field. And at what point were you, it was 2014 where you had, I guess, were really struggling, right? And that
Yeah.
was I guess, the breaking point of you kind of trying to figure out what direction you wanted to go from there.
Yeah, through lots of discussion and thought process, in 2014. So what happened is I've always had this issue. It's called vasovagal syncope. When I go to the doctor, I associate this fight or flight mechanism where I need to get the heck out of here. It happened in sixth grade for the first time. I was visiting my grandmother, and she had knee surgery, and she started puking in the puke cup, and I was always uncomfortable with that. So there's something deep in my childhood that created this. And that was the first time in my life where I was like, I got to get out of here. Like, it felt really weird. And as I'm sprinting, like, the Black Death comes over and I passed out. And so any time in my life that I've had anything to do with it, sort of medical, like getting a shot or, getting physical, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse as I've gotten older. This passing out thing, and I had my wisdom teeth pulled out. I had passed out before that, and so in 2014, I started to develop some status. The promise of the future was there. So I think what happened is I started to live much more in the future, and I'd closed most people out in my life. You're taught at Merrill Lynch to keep your mouth shut about what you got. You're supposed to show that you're successful, especially where I am in middle America here. The customers, the clients that I had, $500,000, their house is paid off, and they had a pension. This isn't like, Palm Beach County where your average client is, $30 million. These were these are hardworking, these are my parents, in years down the road. They were engineers. Occasionally you'd have some doctors. You'd have a few accounts with a couple $1 million, but these were like regular people, nice regular people, and so you don't want to flash that I'm not a regular person because of all the work I'd done. I was making 150, 200, 300, 400, 500, $600,000 as I ascended, and so you're taught to aspire and chase. But you don't really show that off. You keep it to yourself. And so I think that combined with me living in the future and just live in my head, and that's what's part of been my success. I'm living in the potential, and when I was younger, like if it was something athletically, like with volleyball, like I would live in where I'm going to get to, and I would eventually get like 80% of the way there. Which was great. Or I'd create this hypothetical where how much money I can make selling home theater, and I would get like 80% of the way there. And so I think I started living in that that future. Like, man, I'm going to make $1 million a year as a financial advisor. I didn't really care about the money. I cared about the pursuit. And so I became the resident director, so I was managing the office, and so I was responsible for everybody. I didn't really let my assistant do anything for me. I felt the weight of doing everything for, I had some partners, but I felt responsible for everything. So I took all that weight on, and then this passing out thing. We had our daughter. My wife had our daughter, and They forced me to be in the waiting in the delivery room. Of course, I passed out both times in the waiting in the delivery room. And so then I came home, and so Kate was here for a week, and we went to a family photo session. And I went to, so I had all this, I had to actually leave the hospital because one of the financial advisors left. And so I left the hospital with Kate to go and handle that. And so I had all this weight, and I didn't tell anybody about it. And I took all the weight of the world like I was responsible for everything. And I'm living in this future version of myself of becoming the CEO of Merrill Lynch or something like that. Who knows what I made up at the time. And so there was an arrogance around that, a closed offness, and I'm better than you feeling. I know this now. I know people think I have a better than you, sense. I know I come across that way. I don't have that anymore, but I did have that at the time. There's a real arrogance about it. And so I passed out in the delivery, and then but it's only ever happened in the hospital. And so a week later, we're doing family photos. I take Ryan out because Ryan was still like 3 years old and he was a handful. And so we went to the Toys R Us, and I'm just scrolling through Facebook, and one of my buddies had some sort of surgery, and the Black Death came over me in the store. And it was that instant that it's something in my brain clicked, that this passing out could happen anywhere, anytime, at any moment. And so then I went and got in the car, and what I didn't realize, I'd never had any anxiety before, ever. I just had this obsessiveness about things. But it was all for good. It was all for good. And so that moment, I had to get in the car and drive back and I'd get on I-4, which is like the major, highway here in Orlando. There's lots of traffic. And I was just having panic attack after panic attack after panic attack. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought I was going to pass out. So panic attack feels just like passing out. It's just the passing out is the culmination. It's the flight mechanism, where I want to get the heck out of my body. And so it feels the same. And so now the car is introduced into this equation, that the car is another place that creates panic. And so I was in an endless panic attack for months. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, the only thing I could do was run. So I got to went to 185 pounds. I was shredded. It was awesome. And when I first started the videos, I'd come off of the shreddedness, but I first started videos maybe a month and a half after the meltdown. And
why did the running help? Do you?
It didn't help, but at least I got out of the house, because I'd be trapped. And so I couldn't drive, I couldn't eat, I couldn't go to the office. I'd go to the office and I'd meet with a client. I'd panic attack after panic attack. And so this was a sincere humbling. So now it went from nobody can help me, I've got this, not telling anybody about anything. I'm in my garage. I'm like a professional detailer. I don't even know what a detailer is. And I'm just obsessed with all these things and tools and processes and cars and buying exhaust and trial and error. I'm obsessed with this stuff. But it was all me, all by myself. And I really enjoyed reading forums and things like that. And so I had to let people in, let people help me. So I went from all on my own, no one's allowed to help me, to everybody, anybody, please. It was just an instant humbling of I'll do anything for anybody. Just help me, please. And so I went to a therapist, and which was terrifying. You'd think going to because I was terrified of passing out. And so I was terrified of going to sit with a therapist, and terrified of going to a psychologist. They don't even do anything. They can't touch you. And yet I'm terrified of creating these elaborate future stories of what could happen. And so that's when I got on Prozac, and it sort of leveled me back out. So after about a month or two, it leveled me out. And then the talk therapy really helped. And we kind of came to the epiphany that I needed to let some people in. And you probably heard me tell this before, but where I sat down as a obsessed person and as an engineer and said, well, what's the most sophisticated, how can I meet the most people in the most efficient way possible? And so I thought the way to do that, when meet like-minded people and get things out of my head, was to go on Renlist and M3 Post and start journaling my car ownership experience. And so my wife was a photographer, so and I loved cameras. I loved the gear. She liked taking the photos, and so I had, great equipment. And so I started journaling every part and piece, the radar detector. Of course, the thing that kind of got this whole thing started is I bought 14 different exhausts for my GT3, and that was when the 991 GT3 came out, so I helped kind of pioneer working with vendors to figure out what's the right exhaust for this, and that's how I met like Dundon Motorsports and all these people. And so I would share it, and I would go to the dyno, and I eventually was able to start driving again. And so this sharing of my experience was my form of therapy. And the reason I started making YouTube videos was to support the journal. I wish I knew who it was. I'd like to credit them or meet them someday. And they suggested, instead of you sharing your detailing process, it'd be way better if you did this in video form. It's just too much to read. Because I would have like 50 photos and write paragraphs, and that's when I started making videos to support the journal, and then that's where the camera became my friend, my therapy. I was able to, because I don't really like people being around. Now the problem is I got frickin' 25 employees that I got to be around all the time, and so I much prefer and this is probably a bit narcissistic, the ability to just get out what I need to get out and just talk about things that I'm really passionate about. And the other thing that through therapy I'd recognize with that my drug, and even in wealth management, I love to present, to like show, here's what I've learned, here's what I've figured out, here's this really complicated thing that I was really good, especially in home theater sales, was really good taking a complicated thing and using like regular words in complete sentences in a rather engaging, entertaining way. And so despite my monotoneness to a certain demographic, people really respond to that way of teaching, to the way that I do it. And I recognize through therapy, like, that's what I love doing. And so I didn't realize at the time, I thought everybody knew what I knew. I thought at least they had an idea. And then through Renlist, realizing these guys don't even know how to like wipe a fender down. Like, they have no clue. Like, they just have no idea. Like 99.9% of people. And then I found a captive audience. And then even better, I started to find people who did know something. And then it was like a drug, in that even though they knew something, I knew more because of my affliction. And then I got a lot of benefit from it personally. But the first videos, if you go watch like the first GT3 detailing process or some of the first M3 stuff, like, I'm just setting the camera up and just talking. Like, and I didn't edit it. There's no editing. It was just one take. And I also realized that I have the superpower to stand there for 2 hours straight and just talk about like the most sophisticated, complicated stuff on what I'm interested, just off the top of my head. And so that's how it was born, out of this crushing disaster, which I still have and still struggle with every second of every day. Gosh, I wish it would go away. I have 7 cars and I can't freaking drive any of them. So it's come back many times, and so it's been my curse. So I'm hoping to grow out of it at some point. I'm working on it.
So the journaling has helped. The video journaling.
So now it's just video. Like, journals kind of died. The forums are kind of dead, and so YouTube was so much fun to me that YouTube became the outlet. And then one of my friends, Brian Orr, sort of talked me into creating the Facebook group, which was a really good outlet for me as well. The Facebook group was a way for me to invite others to say something, to contribute to each other. And so there's been a significant personal growth trajectory here of, I went from doing it all myself to inviting people in, and then, of course, in the very beginning, the people that are following are usually some weirdos, and so I invited a lot of the wrong people in, and they eventually want something from me that I can't give them, and so I've had to kind of learn how to manage humans along the way, and I've had a lot of coaching, business coaching, and a lot of I meet with a therapist once a week, and which is to me, and 32-year-old me would have said, "You frickin' pansy, man up! Why can't you just reason out of it?" And so my curse is like I'm sitting at a stoplight, just having a frickin' panic attack that I'm going to pass out, and so I've been trying to fix that.
Yeah.
And it's not working. It's so irrational, and I'm such a rational human. It's frustrating as heck. So that's how this all happened. So I've tried to figure out what Obsessed Garage is my contribution to the world, turning something that's so negative into a contribution, or at least an attempt to do that.
Because when I listen to your story, and someone like yourself who can just go after and figure things out and get what they want out of life, right? It's really easy to just put it on yourself to be like, you know what? I'll figure it out. I'll do it on my own. I'll figure it out. And at a certain point, what people need to understand that it takes strength to go and ask for help, right? And that's what you did with trying to be part of a community and be like, guys, I want to share this. How can you guys be a part of this journey to help me figure this out? And I think that's a message that a lot of people need to understand is that as strong as you are, there's always something intangible about asking for help and being part of this relationship or being part of a community with other people.
It's just easier for me and many people that are like me to. It's just a lot harder to involve others in things. It's why I had an assistant paying her like $60,000 a year, and I wouldn't let her open an account because it was harder. I felt like I was taking advantage of her, and I felt like that she wouldn't do it as well as I could do it. And so there's been a lot of growth in learning to let people, when you do that, you steal everything from them, and then they resent you for it. They're stealing the win. It's that's been a lot of coaching for me is to I am very, very good at convincing others to do stuff, to enroll. Like I'm a natural born, not a type A salesman, but I say a type C salesman, a technical salesman. But I have this real strong skill set to convince people to let's change the world together. And then the part that I miss is then you have to, when you invite people in, you have to acknowledge them. So I treat people like I treat objects, like material things. The only difference is I learn everything there is to know about the object, but I don't know anything about the people. I just see something that's great, and I see some opportunity for people, and so the big epiphany after inviting lots of people in was to then figure out now I have to figure out what to do with them and how to acknowledge them, and it's like a foreign language to me. I could program a VCR with my eyes closed with no manual and one hand tied behind my back, where most people, they saw a VCR and they had to program, they would be crippled and annoyed and frustrated. That's how I feel when it comes to just saying good job to another human. It's a really, really complicated thing. If I can figure that out, then I've conquered the darn world. I'll just hire a driver and say screw it, you know. But the human element, the involving others and inviting others, has evolved quite a bit as Obsessed Garage has transitioned from a therapy session to an idea to a business to a company to now transitioning to an organization. And all along the way, I've had people come and go, and I've had people from followers to moderators to other things and I can't worry about every single human along the way, but there's a lot of growth available in in how I approach life, to be able to really master it. The thing that stinks is I think we all kind of figure it out when you're 70 years old, and then it's kind of over. It's too late.
So I think the one thing we skipped was, when did cars jump into the picture, and where did that come from?
Well, when we were in the trailer park, I was probably 8. My dad was a gearhead, was a car guy, and so he got a 1966 GTO, and they went and got it, and it was like a barn find, and but it wasn't running. Came like the chassis came on one flatbed and the frame came on the other, and so for several years, every day after work, I'd come from school and I'd go to the garage where he was. So at the trailer park, there was a maintenance guy, and the maintenance guy was his best friend. And the maintenance guy got to live in his trailer without paying rent, and then he got paid. So he was the one that was, bringing the gravel in, fixing the potholes, fixing the well system, and he was responsible for the trailer park. And so the guy who owned the trailer park, this guy worked for him. And so there was a maintenance building, this old rundown garage, that the maintenance guy and my dad, who were best buddies, they got to use this garage, which was at the end of the trailer park. And so when I'd get dropped off of the bus, I'd go there and I'd sit there and I'd watch, and as they welded and repaired and painted and rebuilt the engine and did all these things. And so that's where I'm sure it comes from. And so then we would go to, once the cars were built, every Saturday we'd go to like an ice cream place where it was like a Saturday night cruise. And you sort of figure my parents are in their 20s, right? So there'd be like a 20-year-old version of us that would go out, and that was the thing. You take your muscle cars out and you just kind of have a nice drive, and then occasionally they'd line up at a light and do a little pool, and with the kids in the back, or do a burnout at the one stop sign every time. And so that's where me sitting in the back seat, that's where where it comes from. And so I didn't get a good car until I was 20, when I was selling home theater, and that's when I got my Civic Si. So and then that's when I got into buying parts and tuning and all that stuff. And so that's what I rebought here last a year ago, and rebought that Civic. Spent 150 grand on the thing and then gave it away. Luckily, the guy who won it loves it. He's probably gonna have it for the rest of his life. The other ones that I gave away, the 1M and the M5, those have gotten sold a couple of times over, which I don't care. Those cars, once I'm done with the car's dead to me.
Yeah.
And so the car is important to me, but the car is what creates the need for the garage. That's why we say the anchor of the obsession is the garage. I like the cars, but cars are not the end all be all to me. Like if I go to like a car show or like a Cars and Coffee, I don't give two craps about anybody else's car. I'm not interested. I don't care if it's a LFA or a whatever, LaFerrari. It's not mine. I don't care. It's like I'm not like I know some people, that's their passion. They love cars like that. So the car is like 20% of the passion. And then detailing, I get to detail. Without a car, I don't get to detail. Without a car, I don't get to have a floor. I don't need the lights. I don't need the audio system in the garage. I don't need the tools. I don't need the cabinets. So the garage is the anchor of all of this. Let's say that I can't drive someday. I'm still going to have 10 cars and a giant garage. If I'm blind and deaf, I'm still going to be in the garage playing with that stuff. And so that's, the car to me is a percentage, a large percentage. And when you're crazy like I am, when you have all these neuroses like we talk about, when there's something that I'm that 20% interested in, it's like a normal person's like 200%. And so that's also the curse of, interpersonal relationships and stuff like that. Car, especially when the car was more of a financial percentage. Like my first E92 M3, like it was like too much. It was like I'm too focused on that thing being perfect. And then of course that car gets dinged, gets scratched, gets water spots. It meant too much to me. So the beauty, and this is why I'm so excited for the future of my life, and that I'm struggling, the last 5 or 6 years has been a struggle. I don't give a crap about any of my cars now. Like if you came and backed into one of them, I probably wouldn't keep it. I'd probably punt it and fix it and sell it to somebody else. But they don't mean anything to me, or mean very little to me now. Like I let all the guys that drive them all, if I need it driven somewhere or something, I would have never, no one's touching my E92 M3 in 2010. no one's touching my first 911 or my first GT3. I mean, they meant so much to me. And so that's been a really great transition to, cars are important. I like them, but it's not an obsession that like is a detriment to me anymore.
What caused that transition, that shift in?
Money, money, I think, and people. I think letting people in. People mean more to me than the cars do. And they didn't before. Other than my family, the people outside people didn't matter. And now, I've got a extended, 26, 7 people here that are my family, I'm responsible for. And the cars mean less to me than the people.
Yeah.
So that's the transition. And then having the money where it's not like the lion's share of what I'm worth. Paying $1,100 a month when I'm making, when you're making $6,000 a month is just stupid. But that's what us car guys do. And so now you pay $1,100 a month and you're making, $200,000 a month. Who freaking cares? It doesn't matter. So that's, that I think that has a lot to do with it. But if we're looking for a more benevolent answer, I think it's relationship and humans are more important than the cars.
Yeah. No, that's definitely something that I guess came easy for me. That's just how I was raised. Is that the car is a percentage of the obsession, of the passion, right? But for me, something that I've just found very easy was connecting with
Mm.
people and building relationships. And through Kodawari, I've kind of stumbled around trying a few things, and what I've learned is that being part of that community, being building this relationship and sharing our story is something that just has so much meaning to me now. And the cars are just the reason why I've built the business, and why I've transitioned it over to hopefully inspiring other people, just like you have with myself, to chase after what they want, whatever it is. But you have to define what it is first, and understand um, how to stay authentic to yourself.
So for you, that sounds like the cars are the magnet for the relationship, right? I had didn't have that part. There's no like I'm just doing the stuff to get more stuff, to focus more time on the stuff, to learn more about the stuff. And then I get a drug for me is to then share it. I need the other people to be able to share the information about the stuff. And so this has been the struggle of the transition from now I have hundreds of thousands of people that follow me and know who I am, and then as well as my now extended family and employees and other people that have contributed. And so I've had to learn how to, I'm still learning how to use the stuff as a magnet rather than the people are just an excuse. The people are like something that I need, I have to have, but I don't really want. And so that transition is, I think, happening for me, personally. And so I needed the people to buy stuff from me in order to buy more stuff. And but I'm still, I don't really care about the money. I don't care about any of that crap. I just want more stuff so that I can focus energy in on the stuff. The stuff is a magnet. It's a magnet to create culture and to create, because the stuff, the part of the issue is that the stuff is totally unfulfilling. It doesn't matter how much you have,
Yeah.
but it's the relationships, it's the magnetism of the stuff that creates the like-mindedness. Because I'm not interested in hanging out with regular freaking people that are useless to me. I'm interested in hanging out with people like you that we have a common interest, and then it's much more natural. There's a natural, at least there's a chance that I could have a natural desire to have some interest in what it is you have to say. And that is super fulfilling when that happens naturally. When you go to dinner with somebody or lunch, and you're genuinely interested instead of trying to get to the next part or piece of a car or something like that.
Yeah, just finding people from your tribe and have the same values, the same interests. It just makes things just effortless.
It's magic. Yeah.
And
Because I'm not very good at that part. I can fake it. But because I'm not very good at the interpersonal discussion, it's way easier when you have that common ground. And that was so shocking to me the first few times. Like I got together, the moderators that were helping me with the we had our first moderators weekend. That's when I knew I was on to something. Is that I got 12 strangers together around a table the first night. Like they just met each other at this restaurant, and it was like instant. And a lot of these guys are friends for life, and the magnet to all of that, the culture was created around the stuff. And it was this clicking in my brain, like, holy crap, like there's something here. Like I've never sat down, there's that awkward how's the weather kind of discussion that I have zero interest in. So I'll just sit there and look at you. like this awkward, but then if you get me talking about something interesting like cars or money or something interesting, let's go. Let's talk. You just can't shut me up. And so that was the magic, is to just get a bunch of people who have that same mindset, and then you can't shut them up. We're all talking over each other, getting all excited. That was what like normal people have about like family and kids and politics and whatever else they're interested, that I just can't relate to when you've got the magnet of all of the stuff, the detailing. It was the detailing process, and then the car we're detailing. You're just shouting over each other like a bunch of regular people. It's freaking awesome.
yeah, do you use that framework of building out your team? Do they have to have a shared,
No.
like at the culture
Most of
culture
them.
at Obsessed Garage?
Not everybody here is a car person. Most of them are. For certain jobs, yes. It's just way easier. And then, and the other thing that's easier for me is that then they take care of each other. And they don't need quite as much from me. The learning lesson when I'm growing as a leader and learning to become a leader is the understanding that there is a need from acknowledgement from me. There's a need for interaction. The epiphany came here recently in that my coach was talking. Said you realize that because they coach all of my employees or most of the leaders here. You realize that these people came here for you, like to do things with you and to be a part of what you're doing. I thought they came here for Obsessed Garage for them, and so I'm creating the opportunity and then pushing them toward that. But they came here for me, came here for the culture that I kind of the vibe that I put off, I guess. And so that was a real epiphany. And again, not narcissistic, like I'm great, they're coming to be with me. That they're coming for the video, what they see in the video. They're coming to engage and be a part of that, not to just build Obsessed Garage so they can get rich. The people are coming here for the culture is not the stuff. The stuff is fun, but culture is the interpersonal human relationship. And it's just, again, it's like my wife trying to install RAM in a laptop. It's like crippling. And so me again acknowledging and understanding that it's crippling, that the human side of things. Because I thought everybody was here to I've got every Milwaukee tool. Wouldn't you want so they can come and figure out how to sell Milwaukee tools so they can get rich and drive a GT3 someday? I thought that's what everybody was here for. So I'm just trying to figure that stuff out too.
Yeah, nah, just understanding that.
You can see it though, can't you? I mean, you've seen many videos that I've done. This is who I am. It's what makes me great. It's what's I think somewhat attractive to certain people. It's like bug repellent to like 99% of the population, but there's a certain attractiveness to that. But there's also because my worship is on the stuff, you'd never get, people didn't even realize that they wanted something out of the being here. And so I'm learning how to do that. And I think if I can figure that out, then we'll create Destination OG and it'll become like, become an amazing, household brand. So, and here's the coolest part about all of this is that, I'm having a very different discussion with you than I would have 2 years ago or 2 years before that. And it's funny how when you're online and you're sharing your life, people like to attack you for, reneging on things or backpedaling or changing your thought process or admitting to things that you thought you knew that you didn't.
Yeah.
But that's what it's all about. That's life. That's the spice of it all. It's the acceptance that, you're everybody's growing. And I think about, I'm the terrible leader, but my coach mentioned one thing. He said what makes a great leader is someone who thinks they're a terrible leader, who wants to work for it,
Yeah.
who acknowledges that and wants to chase that. And that's what a leader is. And learning and willing to learn and to adapt and to make adjustments along the way.
Yeah, because we beat ourselves so hard over these things that we care about. But you have to look like an idiot first before you find mastery in anything. And that's something that I've always been really hard on myself over the past 2 years of trying to start this company is like, I've never had a team before. And now
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been good at planning. I've never been really good at communicating. And now I'm confronted with my errors every single day because the
Mm-hmm.
relationships that I have to see with my employees, my team, they're telling me like, "Yo, now you need to improve here because we're hurting. Like this is what is going on." And I'm just like, I'm trying. I'm picking up every single book that I can find about the thing that I care about, and that's what you need to do and understand that that's part of the process.
Yeah, I think so. I don't like it though.
And I like how you mentioned that, you know, people change, people evolve, and how you thought, how you saw the world 5 years ago can be very different to how you see the world now. And people need to understand that they can't hold that against you. You know, you had the courage to put yourself out there, and it's just like there's so much of this, I guess, people getting sensitive, cancel culture, and just being like, oh, you know what? You made that one mistake 5 years ago, and we're going to roast you for it. Right. And I think some of it stems from just being human because we look at our own past. I look at my own past sometimes and I'm like, man, I was such an idiot 5 years ago. And I saw the world and made these decisions. That harshness of which you kind of view that past self of yours, I find like people are projecting that on people in their lives, whether it's your friends and family or an influencer that you see online or a celebrity, where it's like, oh, look at what this person said 10 years ago. I'm just going to hold that against them when it comes from within, and I think that comes from a little bit of all of us from
Yeah.
within.
Yeah, it's a self projection, right? And it's usually you attack things that you see in yourself, that you don't like. And it's tough. I mean, I've gotten I would say that I'm probably like a high school student in the level of maturity when it comes to dealing with our new lives, this new life on the internet, this new socially shared existence. And where I'd say, like my young friend Adam LZ is like he's in graduate school. There are different levels of understanding and maturity around how you deal with an online life. And so you see it with people that are attacking, that they're infants, they're just they're emotionally infant in their infancy on dealing on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, Twitter. And so there's it's especially in the beginning, I would fight with people all the time, and and I still say, look, if it's nonsense, that's nonsense, and that gets people even more riled up. At some point, I'll probably get to the place to where I don't even need to respond. When I get my PhD and in understanding how to interact socially, like Gary V is like he's like a Jedi master, on how to focus on the positive, ignore the negative, and just at least he has that perception, and I think he's authentic enough that he would admit that he didn't. The attacks that he get of being a charlatan and a, what do they call it, hustle porn, right? They get in trouble for that all the time, or people say that all the time. Or you watch like Joe Rogan, and people are attacking him in the View and stuff like that. He's a social savant, and they're Jedi level 2 on how to navigate and manage our new world that we live, where most people are infants or children or elementary students. And so if you can put yourself in their shoes and understand that, it becomes easier to navigate, and less worrisome and bothersome, and less of a detriment to our ability to continue to share your life in a digital format. What we're interested in is so niche that the only way to really have a fruitful career and a fruitful life around it, you've got to put it out there for everybody. And the difficulty of that is it requires you to grow and to educate yourself faster than the average person who, let's say you're an insurance agent and you work for State Farm, you get all your leads through that. You may not need to have a YouTube channel and a Twitter handle with pursuing engagement from lots and lots of people who don't give a crap about insurance. So we're putting this stuff out about I'm so focused on an end-to-end solution. When I make a car video and I get just the person interested in car videos, they get angry. And so again, if I'm in high school, I'm a little bit better at navigating it than when I was in elementary school emotionally. And so living this life online has been so fruitful, but it's not easy. It's not easy to do. You can get I've gotten attacked many times. Like very early, before cancel culture really started, I said the word retarded. Like we all, you're younger than I am, but in the when I was in the 80s, that's what she said. In 80s, 90s, you just say, don't be retarded. You're not insulting anyone. But I said that in a podcast just by accident, and then somebody who owned the ScanGrip US Instagram handle, they had that name, and so then they made a public post saying, basically saying, I'm a bigot and whatever.
Yeah.
Saying, can you believe that he's saying this? And so then that kind of spread throughout like the detailing world. And so I sent an email to the guys at ScanGrip. I said, look, I don't really have. I'm not married to this word. I didn't really. If you go and listen to the context, it's not derogatory in any sense.
Yeah.
I'm happy to consider not using that. Why wouldn't you just send me an email? Turned out they didn't have it. They didn't have. It wasn't like somebody had, like another retailer had that that Instagram handle for that was like maybe the first U.S. distributor or something. They didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
So then they got it shut down. But it was one of those things that reminded me that there is that you can be authentic. Luckily for me, my authentic self doesn't have a lot of cancelable things in it. I don't have those thoughts. Like I don't have to fake it. I don't have to hold back. I don't have, I'm always yelling at you Canadians for being a bunch of freaking pansies up there with the whole COVID thing, so that's what I really do think. And that's not exactly, it's not cancelable, but like using the term retarded was something that I'd never really considered the derogatory sense of it, but it was a lesson for, growing. And so that, being more socially intelligent and responsible is a lot more difficult than I think a lot of people realize, unless you've put yourself out there online.
Yeah, it's tough. It's just there's so much to consider. It's very, very overwhelming at times. But just like with everything else, trying to be a leader and trying to navigate this world, you're gonna make mistakes. You got to make
Yeah.
mistakes, and that's just a part of it. If you're too afraid to make the mistakes, then most people don't ever put themselves out there. But then you're closing the doors on so much beauty in life that is required to accepting that there will be mistakes and you're gonna have to fall flat on your face sometimes, right?
Yeah, the thing I found very difficult in the beginning was people didn't know how to take me. I was just doing me, and if you don't listen to the words and you start to build a story around it, then there's people take me for a jerk or a. It's funny when I see comments of like, "Man, that guy must be horrible to work for." Like meaning that I'm like slave driving, like whipping people and making them, do stupid things. I'm creating a environment where people can craft their own future, and so I find it funny that the perception that people create the story they make up around you, or like this story with the scan grip thing. And I think as you become more socially intelligent on these platforms, on the way we now exist, you can still be authentic. You don't have to hold back, but you can avoid a lot of the potential pitfalls of cancellation or inflaming people. In the beginning, I would just tell people they're freaking stupid. Don't be stupid. And I notice I don't feel the need to do that as much anymore. Where I was interacting with the commenters and a lot of detailing stuff in the beginning, and the detailing community wasn't very excited about having some YouTuber in there. And in the beginning, I would pick a lot of fights, but all that would do is make me angry and get me all fired up, and so the idea of figuring out how to be authentic and I feel like I can still be, I guess, inappropriate in the traditional sense. Half of what I've said on here is very inappropriate in the traditional sense. You should hold all this stuff back. But I feel like I'm learning how to be inappropriate and not say "you suck" while I'm saying it. At least I feel like I'm getting better. Maybe not, but I feel like I'm evolving in that sense.
It's a balancing act. It's a craft. It's almost an art to kind of understand where you can push this needle and reduce over here. It's interesting. It's interesting, and there's so many ways to kind of approach everything you do in life with that mindset, right? So
Mm-hmm.
with the detailing world, how have you seen things evolve from where you started to now where things stand, and what the future might look like that in terms of the whole detailing industry?
Um, I think detailing has there's been an exponential evolutionary curve over the last decade. With the advent, with credit Kevin Brown and Todd Cooperrider with their they stumbled upon the Rupes booth at SEMA. It was probably like 2011 or something like that. And so that was like the seminal moment of the transition to modern detailing that we now have in combination with the advent of coatings, right? And so we've had this massive hockey stick style growth of detailing. Now I think we're in the phase of nonsense, right? And so we've had the evolution. We have great products. We have great processes. You have the advent of things like dry ice cleaning and vapor honing, where we can really restore. I think that's going to become more and more prevalent as we go back and take the 90s cars and take the cars that we dreamt of when we were kids, and and restore those and bring those back to so those are our muscle cars, right? So I think that the old classic stuff dies off, and that stuff's going to be worth nothing other than a few like museum grade examples, because none of us, I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in a 1970 Barracuda. I'm interested in a 96 Supra, or whatever, an NSX. And so you gave me a 66 GTO like my dad had. I just freaking give it back. I don't want that. Maybe if it was like a resto mod with a modern suspension or something, or maybe if it was like an air cooled Porsche that I could like modernize like to Singer level, maybe that's kind of cool. But we're seeing a real transition in cars from one generation to the next, and so detailing got handed off to our generation, and we took it to new heights. I think that we're in the sort of the I think the hockey stick improvement is going to slow pretty substantially. This whole idea of graphene is nonsense. I think that PPF maybe has one or two more significant legs up. When PPF can become stretchable and contourable like a wrap can, I think that is a major evolutionary step. But I don't think we're going to see a significant change, because it doesn't seem like manufacturers are looking at nanotechnologies and self-healing paints and stuff like that. It doesn't appear that they're headed in that direction. It appears that electric cars, people seem to care less about what the finish looks like. And so I think that detailing is not going to stagnate. I think it's going to continue to grow, but it's going to grow slower, and it's going to be focused on, again, I think that our generation, I think Gen X, Gen Millennial, or whatever it's called, the beginning of the millennial generation, I think is where it kind of slows and stops a bit. I don't think that the next generation cares as much about this kind of stuff. And so I would wager that coatings are going to start to they'll incrementally improve. And I think that polishing isn't going to change much for quite some time. And I think we'll see some small incremental improvements in PPF. And I think that more and more of the general public will become aware that detailing is a thing and something that they may want. So the service providers, I think, will continue to see significant growth in the amount of humans that are interested in it. But I think the gear, the stuff, that hockey puck, evolution jump, that technology change in what's available in products, with the advent of silicon dioxide, I would, if I were gambling, I would wager that game is going to slow substantially in comparison to what we've experienced. And so the big manufacturers are trying to get a piece of it. And you see me railing against like Turtle Wax and Armor All and Mothers, the lazy companies. They're not going to add anything to the technological advancement. They're all full of crap. Again, I use this concept of you can just see it in their eyes. Just take one look at them and have them discuss your detailing. They're not detailers. They're not interested in. They have the resources to drive technology and improve, but I think the G-Technics and the next G-Technics of the world, the Car Pros of the world, those people, the Geons of the world, are the ones that will cause the slight evolutionary changes in detailing. But I think we've experienced the lion's share of the hockey stick like growth and trajectory change. And then it will be up to new paint technologies in order to really see a remarkable change in what we're providing. Because I think graphene is nonsense.
Yeah, I know you've done a lot of videos on graphene. I haven't had a chance to watch them yet, but
It's
what
just not. It's being sold as new technology. It's not. It's just an additive in an existing resin-delivered coating. You could see it clear as day right from the beginning. Maybe it helps. That's what I'm saying. These are incremental adjustments. They were looking for the next, when silicon dioxide coating started to become easier to apply, we saw this huge change in if you're a detailer, you could actually make like hundreds of thousands of dollars now because of this technology, where before you couldn't do that. Waxing people's cars and stuff, you're working your face off. So it took the labor down substantially, increased the longevity, and made it much more saleable. Right, a coating takes just as much time as a wax, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more. It doesn't take a whole lot more expertise once you figure it out. Wax, if you get wax in the crevices and on your plastics, it can be problematic. But coatings aren't that much more difficult to do. And so once that happened, we just saw this explosion, and you're able to charge $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to do a correction. That makes a really legitimate career. It's kind of like when PDR took off and they started to develop tools and things like that. Now you have real career paths inside of that genre, or inside of that service ability. And so I just don't think that graphene these things that frustrated me that are being sold as the next hockey stick style exponential growth curve. It's just not true. It's bullcrap. And just because it's an incremental change doesn't mean it's going to revolutionize the industry. And it frustrates me when people, and you see this with people that really don't have chops, that are pretending to have chops because they have a following, proposing or promoting this stuff because they're being duped by the other idiots who just know a little bit more than them. And I think that frustrates the heck out of me, and that influencers allow that to happen to chase. It's missing the authentic checkbox for me, and it's clear as day. It was clear as day, and I was hoping I wasn't wrong, and of course I was right when you see that refined graphene oxide is just a freaking additive to an already traditional resin delivered solvent based coating. It's the same resin, it's the same stuff. They're sprinkling some fairy dust in there and calling it, pretending like it's this impenetrable surface. It's bullcrap.
Yeah, it's just the way misinformation can travel so quickly, and
Yeah.
the ripple effect that anyone with the voice, anyone with a following can just cause that ripple, which just
They
um
contribute to it because they jump onto the ripple, they jump onto the wave, which is much more intelligent to do if you're interested in a following and interested in making money. I'm doing it the complete wrong way. My friend Pan is a great example. He watches what's trending and what people are interested in, and then he tries to do it better. He'll watch what other people are making videos of. He takes a bad rap for that, and I bust his balls about messing with turtle wax, but he's doing what he should do. And that's the ripple. That's the current trend. That's what people are interested in. And it frustrates the heck out of me. But that's one of the, I think, the real negatives. And you can look at it politically. You can look at it with the pandemic. You can look at it with all these different topics where people just kind of they have the need they in order to be intelligent is to follow what's trending and what's interesting. The only argument I have, the reason why I'm not suited to follow that. I'm the guy that shows up at the study session, and once I finish my barbecue chips, I'm out. And so that's just my natural tendency. But the intelligent person would have stayed there and studied all night. Intelligent person would have been there at 3 p.m. and gotten 100, and then maybe they would have gotten a better job. But the intelligent person's making 82 grand a year, and I'm making frickin' millions because I chose to just eat the barbecue chips and walk out. There's a certain thing that comes from that. And so, detailing to me, there's an intelligent, way to follow the status quo and to do the norm. But if you're actually looking, you can usually see what's bullcrap and what's not. And then I just choose not to head down that path. And detailing was a huge focus for me, and I understand a large percentage of the following is detailing focused as well. The detailing was never like my sole focus. It was the sole focus at the time because I had to construct that part of the end-to-end solution. But detailing will be a smaller and smaller percentage. I'm still going to do it all just as much as I've ever done it. It's just that, in the beginning of the YouTube channel when I started, it was like detailing, because I was building out the car washing package and building out the pressure washing system and all the little parts and pieces of it. And what you're going to see me transitioning into is building frickin' houses from start to finish. And detailing is a huge part. Detailing is episode 3, of 20 episodes, and episode 3 I'm all in on the detailing, but it's one of 20 things that goes into the end-to-end solution for me. And so, but I had to travel all over the country and take all kinds of trainings and do all kinds of things. I'm kind of doing that with lighting now, where I'm taking Lutron trainings. I'll be traveling to different factories in order to become and have value to provide. So I'm having this take on detailing here. I can only do that because of all the work I put into immersing myself into it and understanding it. And so then the advantage of that is then I think I can see where it's headed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see the kind of impact that you've had on the whole detailing industry, because just sharing this information and helping people get educated, it's like something, it's very in line with what we talked about earlier. It's like the rising tide raises all ships. So
Yeah.
now people know which shops are doing it wrong, which shops to stay away from, and which, when you look at dealerships, right? When you look at their detailing facilities, these are like $100,000, $200,000 cars, and you have
Yeah,
the
wash it with
guy.
a t-shirt and a bucket and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's it's mind blowing because as we've tried to build a facility that takes pride in this art, this craft of detailing, and trying to figure out a way to do it well. And I've gone over to like a bunch of local dealerships, and I see what they're working with. It's just there's so much more improvement that can happen that will affect the industry as a whole, right? Like it's as much as the gear and all that stuff, it might be plateauing or might see incremental changes. It's actually having an impact on businesses and
Right.
how
I think
yeah.
right. That's what I was saying. I think the exponential growth comes on the service side, and and then of course there will be the growth in technology. I think is will slow, but the growth of the service type, and the growth of the education, or the growth of the amount of educated consumers is just getting started. I think. What would you say the percentage of people that know anything about paint correction would be? Like less than 5% of the population would even know that's a thing. So there's all kinds of growth there. What happens if you went from 5% to 9%? You're going from a few million to double that, and so you go from a few million to 4, 5, 6 million. That's a huge growth opportunity. That will be, and that's where I think it's going to be sort of generationally limited. But if you have 25 or 30 or 40 million people in each country that are interested in it, it's something that can be, or at least understand that you don't go to the dealership to get this done, and then that will make the dealership respond and learn how to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as training platforms and stuff like that get developed, there will be people that start to do that. That's the biggest difficulty at the moment, is there's no uniform training. So there's a real opportunity there for creating the future of detailing.
And that's what really gets me excited, Matt, is because I think about like how we're trying to approach running our business, and what we want to do is go around and teach other businesses, okay, you know what? If you guys want to improve your detailing facility, you need to make adjustments to certain things, right? And what you've provided is what I've come to understand is that your environment is so important, right?
I think so.
If you just throw them into a wash bay with a bucket and a towel, what do you think that's going to motivate that detailer to do, right? If you
Yeah, you're
actually
hoarding if you hoard your skill set and you don't show people it. And it doesn't have to be online, but even if you have events and things like that, if you hoard what you're good at, and then that makes you get lazy on the products and the process and what it looks like and what it feels like, which then makes you feel terrible. It's all interconnected. It's all a microcosm. It's all connected to, if you're using stuff that you like using, then you're going to attract other people that are attracted to that, which are going to be better customers, and it's a win on all facets. And so it doesn't. There's two things. It doesn't do you any good to build a facility like what you guys do if you don't share it, but it also is a huge disadvantage if you're. I'm always saying step up your wash game. You want to have a great washing process, even though paint correction's your thing. I think that it's all interconnected. If you share, if you have passion for it, it'll become evident, and then you'll end up with other passionate customers. They just don't have the time because they're focused on what they're focused on,
yeah,
and then they'll really appreciate what it is that you do.
yeah, things are evolving, and I think these businesses, especially the dealerships, have to kind of understand that if you can find someone that's passionate about detailing, and there's a lot of people who love just taking something and working with their hands and showing an end result that just gives them so much fulfillment, so much satisfaction that hey, this is what I can do. And you give them the tools, you give them the environment, you give them the right culture that allows for them to do it well day in day out, right? And that means having efficient tools, efficient processes, and just the right mindset.
I think that, on a side note here, I think that the dealership model is almost over. You're seeing it right now. It's happening. So with Ford, with Toyota, with really any dealership, especially any dealer and any company that has a car that people want, They're gouging us to hatred level. And so I think this is the final. This reminds me like the real estate bubble, where you're gouged to the end, and the prices are just rocket shipping up. And Tesla has the model. No dealership. They have like a delivery center. They have some service centers that are corporately owned. That they're going to cut out these douchebag salesman, middlemen that are gouging the heck out of the general public. And so I think that the model for detailing would be the service center, the corporate service center, and then you adapt and teach the the corporation how to deliver their cars, and then how to care for their cars. And I think we get away from. I think Tesla's not going to be interested in washing cars for people.
Mm-hmm.
They're interested in delivering cars and delivering a great experience when you buy it.
Yeah.
But this whole the whole service. You go to BMW and they're washing your car for you. I don't think ultimately people are going to. I don't think they're going to do that anymore, because I think we're going to transition to you buy your frickin' Ford F-150 online, and then it gets delivered by the delivery center. I can only pray that this happens. Cut these losers out that are ruining for everybody. I hope Porsche does it like tomorrow. Cut the dealership out. Get rid of them completely. And I think what's happening. This is the start of it. And that now you go buy a regular F-150 and they're asking 10, 12, 15 grand more than it's worth. And that's just hacking off the general population. And they're seeing Tesla, that's now the third or fourth largest company in the world. And they're seeing how much better the Tesla experience is fantastic. Have you ever bought one?
No, how was the Model 3 experience?
It's great. I mean, the car is, it's not a Porsche, but imagine if Porsche had the same experience. I didn't have to talk to anybody, not one person. All I did was go on the app. I paid $100, and then boom, it's it gets you access to the app, and then it takes you through the process. You want to finance it, you can finance it. Here it is, clear as day. No dealing with some finance douchebag who's marking it up or getting points on you and stuff. Of course, they're making money in the deal, but they're not gouging you. You're not getting screwed. You don't have to negotiate. It's the most magical buying experience ever. It's like Apple. I'm sure you bought some Apple stuff. It's just such a great experience. In 2008, when Michelle got her first MacBook Pro, I was a hardcore. Macs are for artists; they're not for me. I'm a Windows guy.
Yeah.
And I went into the store with her with my arms crossed like this, and the buying experience was incredible. Like paid for it, right? This is in 2008, and we're paying for it on the on their they're walking around with little things like there's no like cash register. It was just so non-traditional, so different. It was such an amazing experience. I think I had a MacBook Pro like 2 weeks later. Because I wanted to go through that experience again, and I've never ever had a PC ever again since then. And so I think that the dealership model, I can only hope that dealerships go away. They just die. And people don't think it can happen. I think it can happen instantly, especially as dealerships are starting to see they don't have to have a whole lot filled with refrigerators, with cars that nobody wants, because, Americans don't, want their thing right now. Could you imagine, like, you just go car shopping and you just buy something on the lot? And I think other people are starting to realize that that's not the way you do it. We order what we want.
Yeah.
And make it simple. Get rid of all these 5 trillion options. Tesla's amazing. It's like, do you want autopilot or not? Pick your color, pick your wheels, pick your feature of autopilot or not. 3 things. It's amazing. Oh, pick your interior color, right? So 4 things. Pay your $100. It implements the process. I know I'm not going to get one for 3 or 4 months. That's fine. And just keep me updated through the app. Sends you emails. And then when it's time to finance, you finance it. And there's no, you're not getting jerked around by the salesman. There's no like wheel and tire package getting sold. There's none of that nonsense. And then you show up at the place, and you don't even have to sign anything. You've already done it. They just give you the car. Hey, do you want to be trained on it? No, I'd rather figure it out myself. Okay, see ya. It's amazing. You want it serviced, you take it to the service center. Eventually, you'll be able to push a button and it'll drive itself there, the service center.
Because a lot of like these owners, they already know more information about these products than your typical salesman at a dealership. So it's
Yeah.
it's
Even even if somebody doesn't even care about the car, they just go on the line and they read about the car a few
Yeah,
times, then
yeah,
they decide what they want, and the salesman doesn't know jack. But that's that the whole thing needs to go away. And then you got the service writer, and the service writer's paid on how much he writes. It's crazy. So they're designed to screw you and screw the corporation. Because remember, they get paid on on warranty. Hey, what warranty can we get pushed through so we can get paid? I remember when I had an S2000 that was a kind of a lemon, and the guy blew the engine in it. They went out and on a test drive, blew the engine. So they put a new $10,000 engine in the thing, and then the service tech and the service writer got paid $1 zillion that month because they're getting paid a percentage of warranty work. So the manufacturer's getting screwed, just like the consumers. And then, of course, they want to squeeze it out of you if it's not warranty work. And so the whole thing is just asinine and ridiculous. And I think that they're in a boom right now. They're making more money than they've ever made. They don't have inventory. The owners of the dealerships, they have no inventory that they're holding, so their floor plan, their note, their loan for all of their product is, they're not paying all this interest out. They're not having to pay salesmen all that much money because they're not selling that much, and so their service departments are killing it because inflation, things are rising in price, and then they're just ordering cars, so they're not sitting on the money. They order the car comes, they get a bill from Toyota, and the money comes in from the customer right then and there. And so then they're also adding in this markup, and so this is like I think the end of the game for them. I'm telling you, just watch it, and it'll happen fast. The Buick dealerships will hold on the longest, but I think Ford, Toyota,
yeah.
Honda, they're gonna just, all these buildings like malls across America, all these buildings with all these cars are just going to be sitting there vacant. It's going to be freaking incredible.
Yeah.
And then when you want to buy a Porsche, you go on quick. It'd be like buying Air Jordans, right? You got to get it. You got to get in there fast. When they launch it, people who get in there first, pay for it, they get it. You want size 10s, you got to go fast because there's demand for it. And when there's not demand, then you can buy it whenever you want. And so when the new Ford, whatever F-150 Lightning comes out, you get in there fast, and you put your order, you put your deposit 3 years in advance down, and then you've got your place locked. It's reserve your spot, right? You reserve your spot. That's all we want. I want to be able to buy a GT3. I'm going to reserve my spot. Lock it down. Not play this game. I would say 75% of all GT3s are sold to other douchebag dealers that take it straight to auction. 75% of them, easily, maybe even 80%. That's why I can't buy one. That's why you can't buy one. And then Andres Proner says, anybody who wants one can get one. It's bull crap. That's what he thinks, but it's not true.
Yeah. There's a lot of corporate.
I don't know how I got on this diatribe here, but anyway, the Tesla experience is fantastic. It goes back to detailing in a dealership. I think that it'll drive even more business, that dealers won't have anything. There won't be any dealers, so there won't be anything to do with it. And so it'll all be supported by amazing aftermarket. And so the dealers won't be encroaching on your territory anymore, which will make an opportunity, massive for businesses to just, you build a building right next to the Tesla delivery facility. That's what you do. And then you figure out how to franchise that and become like McDonald's, and you own all the real estate that's stuck next to the Ford delivery center. There'll be plenty of room because they're going to take the building with a giant parking lot, the Ford dealer, turn it into a little hut, like the little Tesla facility, and so they'll have a huge parking lot. You'll be able to put your building in on that parking lot, and then you take all the new cars right from Tesla, to the customer, and you figure out how to make the experience just like Tesla has. They go online, choose the app. I want PPF on the front clip. I want coating, and I want the wheels done as well.
It's crazy how technology is just transforming industries, and yeah,
Yep.
I think you're right with, we've just grown up hearing about people getting ripped off by this model
Yep.
that
It's terrible.
the automotive world has
The
made.
richest guy in this whole county is the Phillips Buick dealer guy. It's Mr. Phillips. He's got like 200 acres and a mansion that you can't even see from the road, and he owns all the property around there. He's been frickin' screwing people for 35 years. And so this model of I ordered a Rivian They just
Oh, nice.
copy the Tesla site.
Yeah.
Put $1,000 down. I'm going to get one whenever I get one. I mean, I put $1,000 there. I don't do anything else. And I know that I don't have to get all worked up and all ready to go. They'll message me, email me. I'll log back into the site, and I'll find if I want to finance it or pay for it. I can ACH. You don't even ACH it like on Tesla. Like, because I paid cash for my Tesla, I just did Plaid. Plaid connected right to my Chase account and deposited right then and there.
What's ACH?
ACH is, oh yeah, that's right. You guys are Canadians. It's a interbank transfer.
Okay.
It's like wiring funds, only simpler.
Yeah.
So you do an automatic transaction from bank to bank, and so you don't even have to go to your bank to do it. You just use Plaid, which is an app that they developed, kind of like Venmo or Zelle or something like that, or like Apple Cash, where you can transfer back and forth. So I paid for my $70,000 Tesla in like 10 seconds. I could have done the same thing with financing. It was really easy to do a quick credit check, and they ask you for whatever information. You take a picture of your driver's license. Same thing with Tesla Solar, and so the Rivian experience is going to be the same. It's magical. Whereas Ford, if I want to buy an F-150 Lightning, I got to call 57 dealers, and then each one of them are going to gouge you for. They want now that what they're doing $5,000 non-refundable deposit.
Oh my goodness.
And $25,000 markup. And if you, for whatever reason, cancel, we keep your $5,000. By the way, the $1,000 Rivian, I could get my $1,000 back today, tomorrow, whenever.
Yeah.
No, it's like a Netflix subscription. I can cancel my subscription whenever I want. They'll prorate me back the remaining part of the month. And yet Ford is screwing. They're letting the dealers screw us. And that you're going to pay $25,000 more. That's just direct profit to the guy who has a mansion down the street. And then, by the way, when you finance it, then they're going to mark points up on you. So they're getting the loan at 2.5% from Bank of America, and then they're giving it to you at 4%. They're making the extra 1.5% on your $70,000 purchase. That's how the finance guys make money. The dealership keeps half, gives the other half to the finance director. So the finance guy's making $220. High school dropout, just gouging people. He's a good salesman. And then he's trying to get you to buy the warranty, which is some jerk off, third-party warranty company that's going to do everything in their power to deny you that money. And they're just suckering people into buying garbage over and over again. Tesla, nothing. Beautiful. If I need any help, I'll just write in the app, message, hey, I need some help with the financing here.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people who are huge fans of Tesla and what they're doing and what they've done to revolutionize the industry is it's just going to slowly seep in, and people are going to be like, why am I putting myself through this when I can just go with this company that actually
Right.
cares about the customer experience and cares about making real change in a positive way.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why they're worth, $800 million or $800 billion when they really don't have revenue to justify that yet, because the writing's on the wall. If these other companies don't start to follow suit, they're dead.
And how fast they've done it, it's mind blowing. It's crazy.
And so it just feels strongly that you can. Again, I've been trying to buy a Raptor, and I see posts in the Obsessed Garage Facebook group. Hey, can you believe this dealer? Now the new thing is they're $5,000 non-refundable deposit on a $45,000 car. $5,000 deposit, $15,000 markup. So now you take your $45,000 car, and now it's $65,000. And by the way, they have no guarantee when they're going to deliver it. So your $5,000 is parked with them, and let's say something changes in your life, they eat your $5,000. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That this is going to be I think the reason for their demise, because they're too freaking greedy, and they should be punished for this.
Yeah,
I hate to say it.
That's
I don't want anybody to lose their job, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah, something's gotta change. Because at least in Canada, when the dealerships aren't allowed to mark it up, sometimes they'll do certain things to sell it as a used
drive
vehicle.
it 1 mile,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Play
But
that game.
the whole markup game for vehicles that are like that is just mind blowing. Yeah.
And so then it feeds upon itself. Like with Porsche, they get allocated, and so then the biggest dealerships sell the most cars, get the most allocations, and so they I'm telling you, most of the GT cars are sold by, like Champion is Motorsport in Florida is selling half their cars to other dealerships and pretend that they're, because the guy will buy it and he'll drive it around for a few months and then he'll then they'll mark it up $50K and sell it somewhere else. Or they drive it around and then they sell it back to the dealership and the dealership does it. So everybody's just gouging and ruining the system. There aren't that many people that are buying GT3s. That's why you go on Auto Trader now. There's freaking 500 of them for sale at all times.
They're just
because they're hoarding them. They're not letting the enthusiasts buy them, and Porsche's letting this happen. And so hopefully we transition to the online app-based. You go on, put your deposit down, have your car chosen, and now if they're building something custom for you, maybe you have to put a large deposit down, especially if you're doing something weird. And so it's a real simple thing for somebody to fix and create, and then fix it for all of us. It'd be amazing.
Matt, when did dry ice come on your radar?
So my buddy Tommy Farrell, Tommy F, another YouTuber who I met through Adam LZ. So Tommy and I hit it off real quickly because we're both no nonsense, tell it like it is people. And I'd seen dry ice, and I was getting the E36 M3, and so I knew I would want to do dry ice for that. And so Tommy came down. He came down here to visit, and which he comes to Florida, several times a year, and rents an Airbnb for a month or two. And he had been looking for dry ice because he's really into like the service side of things. Gotten into vapor honing and restoring GTRs, right? So that's what they've really gotten into. And so they bought a shop and so sort of zinc plating bolts and stuff like that. And so dry ice is one of those sort of new things that he's been interested in. And so he found the dry ice guy, which is Scott, who lives down the street from me here. I didn't know this. And so Tommy came down. He's like, look, I need to get you guys together. You're both crazy people. I need to get you together. And so I was going to have my car done anyway, and so it was perfect. I'm like, well, sweet, we can do my car, and then we can talk about the product. And so Scott and I had just kind of hanging out together and kind of talking about my car, and then I sent Waba and the cinematography team down there to produce videos of it and of doing my car, and so we kind of agreed that would be cool. And then Scott said, look, I don't have the distribution model. I don't have the shippers. I don't have the warehouse. I don't have the website. I don't have the people, but I do have the passion and the knowledge for dry ice. And so we kind of worked together to say, well, we'll do this 50-50. So Scott has exclusive import rights, exclusive North American rights for the ICS machines. So really there's two machines. There's Cold Jet and there's ICS. ICS is made in Slovakia. Cold Jet, I don't know where they make it, but the parent company is somewhere like in Indiana or something like that. And so Cold Jet's machine's $45,000, and it has particle adjustment, so you can change the particles. ICS has a machine like that too, which we're bringing in. And so Scott, decided he wanted to go all in with ICS, and so that's when we brought the Evo, the little machine. And of course, that necessitates a lot of compressed air stuff, which of course I have a lot of relationship with the compressed air companies. And so it was just a good synergy, a good, sort of pseudo partnership. The way we set it up is, Scott is has all the exclusive rights. I just help promote it, with our team and in videos and the YouTube channel and all of that to help create some more awareness for it. And then, we pack and ship the machines. And so essentially he sells me the machines and we split the margin. And so he buys the machines, brings them in, and then sells them to me, and we kind of have a synergy where they come in and out. And so we're like the dry ice guys, and so Scott is doing all the work, and then I'm kind of I want it for me personally, and then again the thesis here is if I want it, then other people will want it. And so dry ice is something that can be used in two facets. One would be for detailing, just cleanup. Not like my E36 was a restoration. Can't do that with the Evo machine, the $10,000 machine. That's what I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. The Evo machine is for like cleaning engine bays and knocking off some some polish that you got in the cracks and crevices, cleaning your plastics, cleaning your interior carpets, things like that. It's not like something you would like remove adhesive off a gauge or like clean your bell housing on your your transmission. It's more of a detailing machine. And so that uses pelletized ice, right? And so one of the problems we're faced with is getting ice distributed. Ice, CO2, liquid CO2 is used in many different industries, mainly beverage, right? So your liquid CO2 or your CO2 containers are used mainly for soda, for doing like the Coca-Cola and stuff like that. So that's the biggest consumer of CO2, but it's also used in many other instances. And so, getting the CO2 and getting relationships and getting the stuff brought out to you is all really heavily commercial right now. So, like if you guys got into it, you'd be using a lot of ice, so it wouldn't be a big deal. You have a partnership with Air Gas; they come out every other week and bring you 500 or 1,000 pounds of ice. Not a big deal. What we want to figure out how to be able to distribute. Like me, I don't want that. What I want like 50 pounds of ice a week. Because the ice sublimates, it essentially doesn't evaporate. Scott will get all mad at me for calling that, but it turns back into a gas as it sits there. And so, if you buy 500 pounds, and it'll last about 2 weeks before it sublimates down to zero. So you got to use the stuff. And so the distribution of the ice, and then we're going to get into also making ice. So like for your facility, it would be amazing if you had a machine to make the ice. That way you could have it on demand, and you just have to plan ahead because it takes, if you don't have some big commercial facility, we're talking about like a arm-sized box that produces, let's say it produces a pound an hour. You turn it on, or 2 pounds an hour or something like that. You turn it on at night. You just have them bring you liquid CO2 tanks. And you make the ice on demand when you need it. So you have a job coming in, and you're going to do a restoration with a big machine. You're going to use hundreds of pounds, start making it a few days in advance, and that way you have ice coming out to make the stuff. So in a perfect world, that's where we're headed. And in an even more perfect world, we're not selling $10,000 machines. We're selling $1,000 machines that can operate on a reasonable air compressor. And then we have ice making machines that are $500 or $1,000 or something like that. Right now it's in its infancy, and so it's expensive. To do it right, if you're a detailer and you're listening to this and you want to build like a full on restorative facility, you're going to need a dedicated room, because you're getting that dust all over the place. You're going to need a bay, in like a 1,200 square foot bay. You're going to need to make sure that you're going to really want it air conditioned. You're going to need a desiccant dryer. You're going to need a 40 horse air compressor, and you're going to need a $25,000 ice producing or dry ice blasting machine to do real work. But then you can make $200, $300, $400 an hour off of that machine. So let's say you spend $100,000 on a machine. How many hours does it take for you to pay for that? Especially if you financed it and just kind of paid the monthly note. Let's say you had a $3,000 a month rent bill and another $1,000 on your machine and your air compressor, $4,000 a month. But if you're charging $300 an hour, you're making $25,000-$30,000 a month. I mean, there aren't too many jobs where you're going to make $20K a month net, of your expenses. And so, if you the thing that is going to be difficult for a lot of especially young blue collar people to get over is getting $1,000 note. But imagine if I told you, if you're 17 years old, you get yourself $1,000 note, $100,000 note, and from your parents or something like that, and you said, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to make $350,000 a year off that $100,000." That's pretty good. That's way better than going to college. If that's something you're interested in doing. So it is a viable career choice for those that are not cut out for the blue collar or the white collar life. And you can build if you are white collar, you can build a business around it. But it's magical. You can't wash cars with it. Scott's full of crap. I tried that. It doesn't do squat. You still have to wipe the car. So you're just adding a third, $200 step to the process to wash your car with it. So it doesn't take like the surface. It takes the gunk off, the heavy stuff, but you still need to then wipe the car down.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're adding a whole another step to the process. What I like it for me, is doing like all the stuff that gets gunked up, and so like my GT3, like I had it up on the lift and I'm just knocking out the wheel wells and stuff like that. That I don't need a specific facility for. So that I'm doing on a $5,000 air compressor with a, with the $10,000 machine, and then I have ice coming periodically. But again, the biggest problem right now is getting the ice if you're doing it like I want to do it, which is just I want to have ice on demand. I know I'm going to waste 90% of the ice, but I do want to. That's why if I had an ice making machine, it would be perfect. It's just it's expensive. You guys could certainly make money off it because you have cars coming through, but it's I think especially in colder climates like springtime dry ice restorative work for cars. Especially people are daily driving their car in the winter, and then you sort of restore the thing. Man, it would be cool.
That's what really caught my interest, because as Canadians, as living in a colder climate, everyone's parking their cars over the colder months, and because there's so much salt that sits and starts to corrode. And
Mm-hmm.
my desire is that I want to drive my cars all year round.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'll slap a set of winter tires on my NSX. I want to drive it, but I want to be able to figure out how to maintain it and keep and take care of it so that I can. Right? Because
So that's where I think it would just be amazing business that you to have like a monthly plan that people buy, and they come in and you do a dry. It's not a restoration, but a cleanup. Take all four wheels off, put the thing in the air, and you take care of the coilovers, the wheel wells, the underside, the drive shaft, the exhaust, and all the underside of the car. Again, you could knock that car out in a couple of hours. And so, if I had a Turbo S, and I wanted to drive all winter, and I had to spend $600, every other month or every month in the winter, I'd drop my car off, every on a Saturday, and have it cleaned up and restored, and keep all that gunk off of it. You would need a separate building that's like your slush junk building. You open up the door and you leaf blow it out after you clean all that crap off. But it could be a really revolutionary service for the colder climates, where people still want to drive their car, but keep it nice.
yeah.
And then you're not dealing with water and all that crap when it's freezing cold. You don't have to have this soaking wet facility, and then you pull the car out and everything instantly freezes. It would just be a really clean way to keep cars looking great. And then for those who can't swing that, once every spring, you have the cars come in the spring afterwards and get really restored, get dialed in.
Yeah. Because there's a whole spectrum of enthusiasts, right? There's guys like yourself who are entrepreneurs who have the means to be like, okay, you know what? I want to enjoy these cars. Take care of it for me. Right? And then you have
Mm-hmm.
guys that are maybe like 25-year-old Matt, or like where you have a good career and you're driving that M3, or you're driving that STI, and you just want you only have one car, so you got to drive through winter.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking your family around in it, but you want to take care of it at the end of spring. It means
Yeah.
enough to you that you're willing to fork out that little bit to make sure that it's
Right.
maintained.
We've all done this where you're living on a monthly schedule of expenses. You're not able to buy another $60,000 car. You can swing an $80,000 M3, put some winter tires on it, but you can't swing an $80,000 M3 and a $40,000 whatever winter car. And so you end up want to take care of the one that you got while you're driving around in the snow and salt and all that junk. And that I think you're right. I think that person who has a $45,000 STI can swing a few $1,000 throughout the year to keep it maintained. And again, this is one of those things where you have a machine, you only have so many hours in the day. It doesn't take much to make it a real significant profit center. And and dry ice is one of those things. It just has all kinds of uses for all kinds of stuff. You can use it for like, PPF, crevice, issue where you get kind of dirt buildup. You have to be careful you don't blow the PPF off the car, but you just do like annual cleanups. Like I plan to do quarterly, like throw my car on the scissor lift and just knock out, like I said, wheel wells and like the areas in the wheels that you don't kind of get very well, your brake calipers, things like that. Just do some knockout, clean up with the small machine, and engine bay and things like that, where you get kind of the stuff that builds up. Trunk lids, stuff like that, or even your carpets, things like that. Is freaking cool. It's way cool, easily marketable. But it's one of those things that it's going to come down in price. Everybody doing it now is early adopting the machines because they're not really very complicated. They're not very sophisticated. Right now, most of the expense is your importation costs. That's my big thing with wanting to be in Canada, is to eliminate the import costs that you guys have to pay. And I just think that, you've been a big driver of this for me, is that to get there and get the product in Canada, to cut out the double taxation that you guys always end up having to pay. Plus then, depending on where the currency is, on if you're getting screwed or not on that.
Yeah, there's so many Canadians that and friends in the city that I talk to. They're just like, it's chasing after these things that we love so much, but that double importation, like it just brings up the cost to a point where,
Mm-hmm.
some people it's just a bit little out of reach. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just figuring out a way to get your stuff for Canadians is it's huge.
Yeah, so on that note, I'm coming there at some point. Of course, the pandemic has kind of slowed that kind of stuff. Plus, I wouldn't be able to get most things anyway yet. So it's coming in due time. But I think that the next step, I found my tax accountant, and the service is going to help with the setting up of the corporation and dealing with with all the corporate stuff in Canada, and being in a multinational organization is more complicated, more difficult to manage, because you're doing foreign tax credits and you're paying tax, and then of course if I have employees and you guys have different different employment rules and things like that. But so once you'll be figuring all that stuff out, which is not that difficult once you get into it. And then I'm going to come up and get the building next to you guys, or somewhere in Mississauga or something like that, and then we're going to start importing the product there. And so I'll bring it right from Mosmatic right to the Canadian distribution center, right from Germany for Krenzel and stuff like that, right to the Canadian distribution facility. And then, same with all the detailing stuff. Bringing stuff from CarPro from Korea,
Yeah.
when we bring it right to Canada. And then it's still going to cost more, but it's going to cost considerably less. And then shipping will be normal shipping costs. Instead of, you paid $1 zillion in shipping to get all the stuff up there. We bring in Nussbaum right from Canada, or right from Germany. And so we have the flooring and lighting, and we bring Creed directly in from China or wherever it comes directly there. And so I could envision doing tens of millions of dollars of sales in Canada, and then it helps everybody out. But there's still one Obsessed Garage. You go to obsessedgarage.com, it sees your URL, it sees where you're at, and then it's can automatically converts to Canadian currency, and then you pay Canadian Post or UPS, and instead of costing $100 to ship something to BC, it costs $32 to ship it to BC from Toronto. I really want the Heartland Ranch in Calgary is what I really want to do, but I think you're right. I think I got to go to Toronto. Is where it's got to be. So.
Yeah, no, Toronto and the GTA, man. It's a big city. There's a huge car community here,
And then it's just that it's an easy ship to Montreal, which would be the other major center.
yeah,
For stuff, and then we'll go into full garage design and full everything, and I'm going to build a employee base of other Canadian employees that that want to come and work for OG, and that's the plan. And then when you guys are hosting big events, we can kind of work together and do all kinds of cool stuff. It'd be sick.
yeah. Like what I love is that you're headed towards this direction, that all the equipment that you've learned and put together. It's transitioning into like a house and building a custom house. And
Hmm.
with how technology has allowed people to, like, you know what, if you love cars, you can build your dream garage. You can build a career out of just creating your own personal brand, right? You can do a
Hmm.
podcast. You can work on your cars, and there's so many influencers and people, like, it's actually a career path now. Whereas when we were younger, no, that did not exist. So the
Hmm.
same thing applies to a house now. Like, if you can, you don't have to live in the heart of a city. You can live further out, and you can build a life around your own custom home where you can, it's you're setting up your environment to work with technology, and where you can kind of take it with that. So that's really really cool to see how the pandemic has affected that, and how,
Hmm.
you can take this and then customize it to your needs.
Yeah, it it probably chopped 10 years of that process off, by people being stuck at home. 10 years of innovation happened in 18 months, and yeah, it's cool to see. I think the world is changing rapidly. Let's hope it doesn't. It's a lot of bad stuff too. But I think that anybody who focuses, what does Gary Vee talk about? Is like, if he says a lot of F words in there, but if whoever's president, matters, think you can affect your life, then you're an idiot or something like that.
Yeah.
Like like with me, and like they we were supposed to shut down, and we figured out how to not have that happen. Now I got really lucky, and then if I was in California, or if I was in Michigan, we would be out of business, guaranteed. So there's a little bit of luck of the draw, or I would have been packing and shipping boxes, and it wouldn't have been as good, because I wouldn't have been able to make videos, because me and the three people that I could sneak in here would be doing it. But it's one of those things that where the world changes if you don't find your niche. You could die or fail, but it is pretty easy if you ignore what everybody else is doing. You chase your own thing. There's the technology has afforded us the ability to go narrow and deep and still make a great life,
Yeah.
instead of just working a job. But that's not for everybody. I mean, so working. Hopefully, if you're working a job, you can work a job that you like, that's interesting,
Yeah.
that's motivating. There, it's a lonely place to be. With our first part of ours, telling you that the bad side of this, it's a lonely place to be. In the at the top, and a lot of times I think, man, I just go work with Facebook. I could get like barbecue whenever I want. They got all these like chefs and stuff on staff, and I could just kind of work my way up the corporate ladder. Man, that'd be way easier. I go home whenever I feel like it and work an hour, and I can shut it off whenever it's done. That would be cool. But I don't really want that. But that's some people that's what they're best suited to do. Most people, they'd be best suited to be in an environment where hopefully you can work on what you want, and then shut it off when you're done.
Yeah. It's just figuring out what works for you, and I think by you sharing with the world what works for you, it's
Yeah, it gives people ideas.
yeah.
The only problem is it gives a lot of people the same idea. So that's the frustrating part, when people, there's like, guys in different countries and stuff that are just like, they even copy the darn website template. Like,
Hmm.
get your own template. There's like a freaking million of them on Shopify. Why would you use the same one? It looks stupid. You look stupid.
But just like
Yeah.
how they copy that, and just like how we kind of bring this back to your employees when they come, it's not just for the the building and the facility and the organization. They come for you, man. And I think that that's a big reason why we continue to support you, and we want to be, sitting down and talking with you and being like, this is people
I'm
doing
really
this.
un I'm really uncomfortable with that, but I'm getting better at it. So yeah, it feels foreign to me. This to me, it's the stuff. The stuff is my worship, and I need to not do that. I need to do it, but to do it within, and continue to evolve and grow, and do it within reason. I think that's the message here of this, this discussion is that it's interesting. Every time I tell my story, I tend to learn new things and tell it a little bit differently. And the perspective is even quite different than it was, let's say a year ago of, what I'm learning, what the what is now positive to me. Like I don't think I've ever mentioned relationships when I'm talking about my story. But that is true. I mean, that's authentically what has shifted me, learning how to engage and how to take the niche, take this blessing that we have and the ability to socially influence and connect with people that are like-minded. And there's only like one or two of us in every town. Luckily, there are millions of towns,
Yeah.
so there can be millions of people. We just happen to all be spread out, and then have some form or some part in aggregating all of that is super inspiring and makes me chase. Hopefully it inspires some other people to create their chase as well, and then you can live a really fulfilled life without feeling like you're just working a slave to your own needs. You can make it a functionally excellent existence where it's not just existing to exist.
And I think that's a great way for us to end off this podcast is to talk about Destination OG, right? Your dreams of what this destination could be for like-minded individuals. Where do you see that going?
Yeah, it keeps ever changing. My original plan was for it to be here and just build this big facility on a few hundred acres and do trainings and stuff like that. I realized that it's not really my bag is to do that kind of stuff, and so more of to continue to have a facility here. And then I think what Destination OG looks like is multiple properties, giving people the chance to borrow it from me and experience the stuff, and then I can share with people that experience at scale by sharing the construction of the projects, and the projects are a way for me to show all these end-to-end solutions of what I've been chasing. And so I think that's where I'm headed. We're not there yet. We still have quite a few of the individual products, the parts and pieces to put together, which is fun. And so, Destination OG to me is a place that is done both virtually, where people can follow along virtually, and the things that are of interest to me, and then the hopes is that it's of interest to others. And then we'll also give a certain subset of people, like if you wanted to go and stay at one of these properties. And again, the only reason I'm allowing that to happen is because I think that the audience of obsessed people is the right people that you would want to lend your stuff to. Because what good is it going to be for me to have 10 houses across the country that I can't be in any of them? So let's let others experience that. And so that's what I'm excited about, creating those places for people to go and maybe hosting events around that. So that's where the culture comes in for me. And I'd like to pick some interesting places that selfishly I would want to frequent. So we'll start with like the Highlands, North Carolina, and go from there, and share that process of the pursuit of an excellent property. And of course the garage would be outfitted with all the cool stuff, and we'd have a nice theater family room. We'd have a great desk with a great computer set up, and all the things that I'm interested in, awesome appliances and great lighting, and people get to experience and see all the things that I'm interested in all in one spot. And then, of course, I'm able to share with you via video all of those lessons learned. And that, I think, is what it's all about. And then it also gives me the ability to have the wives watch too, because right now it's a bunch of dudes. So I think the house and stuff like that, and the garage is the anchor of that. I intend for this to change the way that people think about a house. You go and look at any real estate listing, they don't even take a picture of the garage. The garage should be like the second photo. It's the biggest room in the whole house. Should be the second photo or third, maybe behind the kitchen. The garage is 2 or 3 times the size of the kitchen. How do they don't even take one photo, even if it's not even photo 45. So I intend to change the mindset there and make the garage a much more viable or much more thought of what what the possibility could be for that place in your life, even if it's a one car, 10 by 15 garage, or 10 by 20 garage. and show people all the possibilities in between, from from entry level up to amazing like the Atlanta Garage.
Yeah, because the garage is your workspace, and whether you're detailing cars or whether you're doing custom fabrication on carpentry or so whatever, it's a space that allows for you to take who you are and take your craft, and now that people can, they aren't kind of, they don't have to be in a specific location anymore. They can
Yeah.
travel, and looking at the idea that you have of almost like, yeah, it's a rental property that allows for you to just set the environment right for yourself from someone who you share values with. That's really dope. That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's the plan. We'll see. I might change my mind all the time. Or I'm just following, going back to like when I said I was younger. I didn't have I didn't live in the future. So I'm doing everything in my power to fix my, my plight, and to be present with you here. I'm here. Be present in whatever amazing thing that I'm focused on at that moment. Because my biggest curse is that ever chasing, ever unfulfillable chase for the next thing. And then when you're in that space, all you never get to enjoy whatever you're on. So that's where relationship with humans, you don't get to enjoy that. You don't get to enjoy the unboxing of the product that you're focused on at the time. You don't get to enjoy the transformation of the garage that we focused on without being present in that. And so that's the focus, that's the goal, and I think it's going to take me 20 years to get there. So that's good news for YouTube content. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's part of the human condition. Some people struggle with it more, but I try to improve that in myself with my like meditation practice, and that's something that's a part of like Asian culture, and something that I grew up around more, and it's part of my morning each day, and it's just like with everything else in life. I find is like if you want to be more present, you have to practice it. You have to
Yep.
practice it, and you have to just make time for it, and it's helped me quite a bit. It's helped me quite immense to enjoy the moments with my kids and my team and this journey that we're on. And we have so many dreams for the future, but balancing it in a way that allows for us to just enjoy each day and the present moment is huge.
Yeah, I just realized I've got to get on a call with the dry ice guy and the air conditioner or air compressor people, and connecting us all to see what we're going to do for dry ice. We'll get you a system up there in Canada here soon.
Yeah, yeah, you heard it here first. I have so many of my friends with these collections of cars. They're like, if you guys do this with the
We
culture that you guys have attention to detail and quality, like we would
we're
love
in.
to take it to you. But yeah, Matt, I think that's, we've been going for pretty much almost 3 hours, and I want
Cool.
to thank you so much for making the time. And if people want to learn more about Obsessed Garage, do you want to share your handles and where
Yeah,
they can
I mean,
find you?
just you just Google Obsessed Garage on Instagram, Facebook. We have a really big Facebook group with like 40 something thousand people in there. It's kind of cool. And then go obsessgarage.com for all the products we're talking about, and of course Obsessed Garage on YouTube. And we also have a channel called Obsessed Garage Shorts, which is product focus, which we're building now, which is mainly to hold all the product videos for like the website, and to raise awareness around some of these funky products that are generally underserved and underfollowed, underrepresented. So yeah, check it out.
Awesome, man.
Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you injecting a lot of positivity into the not just the detailing world, but the automotive and entrepreneurship world as well. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah, appreciate it.